Chapter 324. When Li Zongjio walked in, he saw a dazzling array of medicinal cauldrons placed in front of him. Although they were separated by a crystal cover, those with good eyesight could roughly tell the quality of these medicinal cauldrons from the workmanship of the cauldrons themselves. However, Li Zongjio had a feeling that he was being watched by someone. He turned around to look at the two girls who were not far away and frowned slightly. With Li Zongjio's strength, he could also sense that the body of one of the girls contained a strong power, but it could not be released easily. At the same time, he could also feel that the power of the girl's bloodline was not simple. Born with an original spirit? Li Zongjio had seen such a situation before. Xiaoya was born with an original spirit and directly enhanced mental strength. This kind of talent was very rare. With a little training, it was enough to become a top expert. At the very least, she could become a very dangerous assassin. They were just two little girls. Li Zongjio did not take it to heart. Instead, he carefully looked at the cauldrons in front of him. Perhaps there would be some good stuff in there. With more than 3,000 years of eyesight, although he might not be able to tell that something was a treasure at a glance, it was not difficult to tell that it was a waste at a glance. What he saw was basically some rubbish. Some of them had been decorated on the outside and looked awesome, but in fact, the formation patterns on the inside had long been tattered and were useless. However, such cauldrons were very expensive. Just when Li Zongjio was almost done looking at the cauldrons here, suddenly, a cauldron appeared in front of Li Zongjio's eyes. It was a dark red cauldron, and it had a very dangerous name. Azura Cauldron? Li Zongjio looked at the introduction written on the outside of the Azura Cauldron. It said that it was unearthed in an unknown historical site in the central part of the dynasty. Although it was severely damaged over the years, it still had a terrifying alchemy effect. Most importantly, the owner of this medicinal cauldron had set a very high price and refused to budge. Of course, the identity of the person who put up the price was kept a secret. Otherwise, if the customer directly went to the person who put up the price, the 7-star fire room wouldn't be able to earn anything. This cauldron, Li Zongjio pointed at the Azura Cauldron. Shueyu and Shueyu, who had been sneakily following them, jumped out. With a bang, he slapped the crystal cover. "I'm sorry, little brother. Our family's young miss saw this cauldron first. We want it," Xiao Chun said straightforwardly. Moreover, she had an annoying look on her face as she took out a pouch. "Come, help me pack up this cauldron. Our young miss wants it." Xiao Chun jumped out. She was really rude and unreasonable, but the other party didn't break the rules. Whoever placed the order would naturally get it first. Li Zongjio didn't say anything just now. The shop assistant looked at Li Zongjio and then looked at Xiao Chun and Shueyu, who seemed to be determined not to back down, and fell into a difficult situation. "You," Li Zongjio frowned and said. "What do you mean by you and us?" "No way. I want to buy this cauldron. Hurry up, we want it. How much is it? Just pack it up for me." Shueyu waved her hand again and again, as if she didn't want to negotiate with Li Zongjio too much. Anyway, this cauldron was hers and couldn't run away. Even if she had to act shamelessly, she had to get this cauldron. "This cauldron is worth 100 million purple yuan. Do you have it?" Li Zongjio didn't say anything and just quietly looked at the two girls in front of him. If it was an ordinary little girl, how could she possibly take out so much? Back then, Beiho Liang's entire net worth was only 20 million purple yuan. The price in front of them was 5 times higher. 100 million purple yuan. Even if it was Li Zongjio himself, he could not take out so many purple essence coins either. Even if it was converted into yuan stones, it would need at least 10,000 yuan stones. This was a very huge number. How much? Shueyu climbed down from the crystal cover of the cauldron and carefully looked at the price tag. It was indeed written on it. 100 million purple yuan. A series of zeros almost made Shueyu faint. Xiao Chun pretended to open her purse and put it away again. After all, even if she took out her purse and pawned it, it wouldn't be worth so much money. What is this thing? This cauldron is so expensive. It's made of gold. Shueyu was extremely angry. This was just a cauldron, and the price was actually so high. This cauldron can enjoy a 30% discount, so it only costs 70 million purple yuan. 70 million? 70 million isn't expensive? Let's take a look. Xiao-chun, let's go. Let's go to other places. This cauldron is really ugly. It's okay to look at it from afar, but I want to vomit when I look at it up close. Shui Yu hurriedly pulled Xiao Chao away. What a joke. 30% discount is 30 million cheaper. Am I someone who lacks 30 million? What I lack is 70 million. She originally wanted to intercept halfway, but she didn't expect this matter to end in such a way. It's really embarrassing. Next time, I must bring enough money when I go out. Shui Yu's face couldn't help but be embarrassed. After all, if such a thing happened to anyone, they would probably be like this. Miss, you don't have to worry. If you reveal your identity, the 7-star fire room will immediately give the cauldron to you. Xiao Chun comforted her on the side. She didn't want to let the miss continue to be so confused. As a maid, she naturally had to solve the miss's problems. That's right. How much money do we have left? Shui Yu asked. Her jet-black eyes gently blinked. We have less than 5,000 left. Less than 5,000 purple yuan. Less than 5,000 gold yuan. A few days ago, you ate too much, Xiao Chun couldn't help but say. Her words made Shui Yu's face become even more embarrassed. I just ate a little bit more. I'm a dignified alchemist. Could it be that I will starve to death? Li Zongjio pulled all the vitality stones and purple yuan he had on him. He almost emptied his entire wallet to gather the money. It was a bit embarrassing, but Li Zongjio could afford it, so he just put the money on the table. Once the deal was made for 70 million purple yuan, the 7-star fire room had already earned 7 million purple yuan just by charging a commission of 10%. This was just an extra income for the 7-star fire room. However, in a third-class city, even Li Zongjio's family, the annual income was only a few million gold yuan. In comparison, it was pitifully small. Therefore, if one wanted to succeed, the first thing one had to do was to expand one's platform. Otherwise, it would be difficult to break through the limits if it was always lingering on the edge of the bottom. Congratulations on the deal. The Azura cauldron is yours. Also, the owner of the Azura cauldron once said that if someone bought the Azura cauldron, he would give it to that person as a gift. As for what it is, we don't know. After the staff at the front desk checked the deal, he asked someone to take out a sealed box from the seed warehouse and handed it to Li Zongjio. This was also the advantage of having a large platform. At the very least, one could rest assured. Perhaps there was something very precious in the box. If it was placed in a small stall, the stall might just cheat you. However, in the 7-star fire room, such a situation would definitely not happen. Quality and reputation were also important parts of a brand. Okay. Li Zongjio took the box and turned to leave. On the way home, the surrounding atmosphere gradually became gloomy and cold. Li Zongjio stopped in front of a long road lined with trees. He turned around. Looking at the pitch-black area, he said indifferently, "Get out here." Chapter 325. When he heard Li Zongjio's words, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. He seemed to know that he would not be able to escape and walked out directly. Although Li Zongjio did not have a deep impression of the person who walked out, he recognized him. Bei Ho Liang of the Bei family in the Black North Giant City. In Li Zongjio's eyes, such a person was even worse than Zhang Sun. Otherwise, Li Zongjio would not have just killed Zhang Sun and not Bei Ho Liang as well. It was because such a person was not worthy of being a threat to Li Zongjio. It would not be long before Bei Ho Liang was killed by himself. He obviously did not have the strength, but he always thought that he could control the situation. Such people were the most pitiful. They could not see their own strength and could not recognize their own position. Such people usually died quickly. Are you here to die? Li Zongjio said indifferently. I am here to seek refuge with you, alone. Listen to me, the third young master of the Yi clan, Yi Guxing, has placed a huge bet on Zhang Hexuan. Zhang Hexuan's death must have something to do with you. Therefore, young Master Yi Guxing will definitely not let us go. If we cooperate, we will definitely have a chance to survive. Bei Ho Liang jumped out and said, No matter what, he could not escape from this matter. Yi family would definitely find many people to be buried with him. Unremarkable people like them were the best candidates to be buried with him. Are you talking about Yi Guxing? Sorry, I just killed him a few days ago. Although Li Zongjiu's words were soft, it was extremely shocking to Bei Holiang. It was as if he could see thousands of horses galloping towards him. The uproar in the city was almost all because of this incident. Now, the real culprit was right in front of him. How could Bei Holiang contain the shock in his heart? You killed Yi Guxing? That Zhang Sun. Yes, I killed him too. Li Zongjiu said faintly, as if this matter was as simple as having a meal with someone. How dare you? Bei Holiang had never imagined that Li Zongjiu would be so audacious as to kill people in the city. Moreover, the people he killed were all extremely important people. Suddenly, Bei Holiang recalled that he had found someone to deal with Li Zongjiu before. However, Li Zongjiu had not killed him. Now that he had delivered himself to Li Zongjiu's doorstep, wouldn't that give Li Zongjiu a reason to kill him? Then why didn't you kill me? Bei Holiang probed. Originally, someone like you was not worthy of me taking action. Li Zongjiu said. Then he looked around. The surrounding forest was pitch black, as if something was trembling. Immediately, Li Zongjiu's eyes turned cold. But today, you don't have to leave here alive. Holding a flying knife in his hand, he looked at Bei Holiang. The latter was shocked. Could it be that Li Zongjiu had discovered something? Didn't they say that these people were the elites of the elites? They shouldn't be discovered so easily. Swoosh! The flying knife instantly flew out from Li Zongjiu's hand. Bei Holiang could only see a transparent light that was like a cicada's wing flying out from Li Zongjiu's hand. When it left his hand, it quickly hid the light and disappeared. All the light disappeared, and even the aura could not be seen. Boom! A tearing sound came from his eardrums. Then he saw a ball of light behind him, flying forward at high speed. Swoosh! Bang! In the dark forest, the sound of several people falling to the ground could be heard. They were shot. Li Zongjiu's flying knife had actually shot these people to the ground. At the same time, a figure could be seen soaring into the sky. Obviously, he saw that the situation was not good and wanted to escape. This person's movement technique was not bad, and he also had wind attribute yuan energy. Immediately, a gust of wind appeared beside him as he soared into the sky. This secret must be passed on to the young master. This was the only thought in the mind of the person who escaped. With my wind attribute yuan energy as a 4th grade origin ancestor, that brat will definitely not be able to catch up to me. When this thought appeared in his mind, he saw a ball of light rushing to the front. How did this ball of light appear? This thought instantly rose in his mind. Not good. Lowering his head, he immediately saw a large blood stain on his chest. The flying knife had unknowingly pierced through his body, which was why it had rushed to the front. That person wanted to see the flying knife clearly, but a trace of dizziness had already appeared in his mind. The entire world seemed to be gradually becoming blurry. His figure immediately fell from the sky. Bang! He heavily smashed onto the ground. The flying knife had also returned to Li Zongjiu's hand. Controlled by mental energy within a radius of 500 meters, killing people is like killing chickens. Feeling the flying knife in his hand, the weight was just right. It did not have the slightest trace of blood and was spotless. Such high craftsmanship indeed made people feel a chill in their hearts. There were a total of 3 corpses on the ground. Bei Holiang stood where he was, not daring to move. At this moment, he understood that Li Zongjiu's strength was rather frightening. Furthermore, such a person did not care about the consequences and was simply fearless. To him, killing people was just a common occurrence. In fact, Bei Holiang had no choice but to come this time. Originally, he did not want to face this unknown and terrifying Li Zongjiu face to face. However, the second young master of the Yi family, Yi Lanyue, had found him and asked him to lead people to kill Li Zongjiu. If he could kill Li Zongjiu, he would be able to return alive. At the very least, that was what Yi Lanyue had promised him. However, now that Li Zongjiu had revealed such a shocking secret and had even killed these people, the next one would naturally be him. Those level 4 origin ancestor realm experts. Not even a single hair could escape. Needless to say, there was simply no chance for him. Bei-ho Liang merely stood where he was. The sweat on his back had already soaked his entire body. He looked at Li Zongjio, who was currently plundering the storage rings of these people. When he had to buy these things himself, Li Zongjio finally understood how useful money was. The things he bought were getting more and more expensive. If he did not prepare more money, he would not have the chance to buy anything valuable in the future. If it really did not work, wouldn't he have to resort to robbing? The 3 corpses were all plundered clean. However, in the end, there were only a few hundred origin stones and less than 1,000,000 purple yuan. How could these people be so poor? Back then, the money in Bei-ho Liang's hands was much more than these people. 3 poor bastards. With a flick of Li Zongjio's finger, the obsidian flames landed on the bodies of the 3 men and burned their corpses to ashes. Seeing that Li Zongjio had already destroyed the corpses, Bei-ho Liang was so frightened that his legs went soft. Speak. Who sent you here? Li Zongjio spoke with extreme disdain towards Bei-ho Liang, who was so cowardly. Don't kill me. I'll speak. I'll tell you everything. It's Yi Lonyue. Yi Lonyue sent me here. Hearing Bei-ho Liang's words, Li Zongjio immediately sent a flying kick towards him. Damn you. What stars and moon? It's true. Yi Lonyue. Yi Lonyue is Yi Guxing's brother. He said that the Yi clan has already put you on the kill list. Bei-ho Liang said in fear. He really did not want to die. He really did not know how such a person entered the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. The Yi clan put me on the kill list? Haha, interesting. Li Zongjio immediately mocked in his heart when he heard this. Then he looked at Bei-ho Liang. Alright, I won't kill you. I'll give you 3 days to prepare all the information about the Yi clan for me. I want to know how many properties and how many people the Yi clan has. What kind of bullshit is this? How dare they put me on the kill list? At this moment, Li Zongjio was completely enraged. The Yi clan was even more arrogant than the Qing Yuan Manor. They actually dared to step on Li Zongjio's head for no reason. This was going to be fun. The reason why Li Zongjio targeted the Qing Yuan Manor was because of Li Changjiang's matter. Secondly, the Qing Yuan Manor was the mastermind in his previous life. Sooner or later, they would walk on the opposite side. As for the Yi clan, they were completely digging their own grave. In his previous life, Li Zongjio had never heard of the Yi clan. He also did not have any interaction with this clan. Now, the Yi clan actually sent themselves to his doorstep. Li Zongjio naturally would not be polite. Chapter 326. Hearing that Li Zongjio was willing to let him go was something that Bei-ho Liang did not even dare to dream of. In such a dangerous situation, there was still a chance of survival. This was too touching, and they couldn't help but want to run away immediately. However, what Li Zongjio asked him to do was extremely dangerous, even though it was not very difficult. What did Li Zongjio mean by collecting information about the Yi clan? Wasn't this saying that he wanted to deal with the Yi clan? If the Yi clan wanted to settle the score and found Li Zongjio, then Bei-ho Liang, who was in charge of collecting information, would naturally be punished as an accomplice. You want to deal with the Yi clan? Bei-ho Liang turned around to persuade Li Zongjio. However, when he turned around, he realized that there was no one around. Li Zongjio seemed to have disappeared into thin air. He had left just like that. If he could not deliver the information to Li Zongjio after 3 days, Li Zongjio would come personally. This was really terrifying. He was such a homicidal maniac. Although Bei-ho Liang's name was kept and Bei-ho Liang also knew that the person who killed Yi Guxing was Li Zongjio, no one would believe this news even if it was spread out. Moreover, he could not even protect himself now. The only way was to stand on Li Zongjio's side. This was because Li Zongjio was the only one who disdained to kill him. He would only have a chance to live if he stood firmly on the team. No matter how stupid Bei-ho Liang was, he would not be stupid enough to keep it a secret. After all, this kind of news did not have enough weight to prove it. In addition, the 3 elites of the assassination team had died directly. Therefore, the best explanation for Bei-ho Liang was that the assassination team had appeared in advance before he could arrive. However, they were killed by Li Zongjio. If Yi Lone Moon wanted to kill someone in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine manner, then he had to leave Bei Ho Liang alive. The surrounding air seemed to have become colder and colder. Bei Ho Liang no longer hesitated. He immediately stood up and hurriedly left. The dirt on his body was also continuously scattered. Apart from the 3 corpses, there was nothing else in the forest. Suddenly, a groundhog emerged from the ground and hurriedly ran to the 3 corpses to sniff them. Then, it quickly drilled back into the ground and disappeared. The next day, Heavenly Stellar Medicine Manor. 300 new students entered the residence. When they arrived with their name lists, they realized that they had already been assigned to different classes. Within the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor, it was divided into the Heavenly Dawn Institution and the Earth Branch Institution, 2 great institutions. The 2 departments were in a competitive relationship. Under the faculties, there were 4 faculties, A, B, C, and D. For example, Bei Ho Liang was a student of this Earth Branch Department C Academy. On the surface, these faculties did not have a clear distinction between high and low. However, everyone could see that the A department was often the place where geniuses gathered. This was because on the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor's Alchemy Master ranking, most of the names were from the A department. The so-called Alchemy Master ranking was, in fact, a very obvious ranking. Every year, the students would be assessed based on points. If one score was high, then one would be able to enter the Alchemy Master ranking. The Alchemy Master ranking was also a comprehensive assessment. Usually, one's score in the course would be directly linked to the Alchemy Master ranking. Apart from that, the annual year-end assessment would also be used to filter out those with poor grades or even those with low motivation to learn. There would always be black sheep in any place. Therefore, even those who entered through the back door with strong connections might not be able to rest easy. If one was not careful, they would still be easily eliminated. Li Zongjio took his name list and came to the registration area. Li Zongjio, student number 01, Heavenly Dawn Medicine's A Department reporting. The instructor in charge of the registration could not help but glance at Li Zongjio. To the outside world, Li Zongjio was merely a new student who obtained the first place. However, the instructors of the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor clearly knew the potential and strength of this Li Zongjio. This was because the elixir that Li Zongjio refined that day was actually lured out by the Heavenly Pool Spiritual Jiao. This kind of achievement was almost unimaginable. Ever since the Heavenly Pool Spiritual Jiao was injured, it had dived into the bottom of the Heavenly Pool. No one had seen this Heavenly Pool Spiritual Jiao again, and it did not pay much attention to the outside world. After all, this Heavenly Pool Spiritual Jiao was left behind by the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor's chief. Ordinary people would not be able to get close to it. Therefore, when this Heavenly Pool Spiritual Jiao was here, one could only use a probing method. If the other party did not want to bother with you, then it was impossible to summon it out. He is Li Zongjio. The Heavenly STEM Faculty A course. It is said that the Heavenly STEM Faculty A course never accepts new students. This Li Zongjio is actually so valued. Many people looked at Li Zongjio one after another. They were also quite shocked by the preferential treatment that Li Zongjio had received. This Sky Horizon A class was an extremely arrogant school. The top 10 alchemists on the Alchemy Master list were all from this Sky Horizon A class. Although the course record was a 4-year course, the Alchemy Master role would only calculate the total score. In other words, it was very difficult for a new student to enter the Alchemy Master role. However, there were still some messy rankings on the potential leaderboard. However, everyone paid attention to the rankings on the Alchemy Master role. The Heavenly STEM Faculty A course could be said to be the strongest course in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. Those who were able to enter this course were led by the strongest instructors in the school. Even the 2 deans would personally appear to teach them. It was very difficult for the other courses to receive such treatment. This guy, how is this possible? The Heavenly STEM Faculty A course. I am only in the Earth Branch A course. From a macro perspective, the Earth Branch A course was stronger than the Heavenly STEM Faculty B course, and so on. However, this wasn't absolute. Every year, the the students would have different explosive power. Usually, they would have their own strength and plans. They might not reveal their full strength too early. Therefore, Emos Suli was very indignant when he saw the course that he had been admitted into. Why was Li Zongjio able to enter the Heavenly STEM Faculty A course? Don't worry, he's not the only one. Mu Qian, who was like a shadow that followed the body, said with a smile. In the past 3 days, some of the instructors in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor had almost killed each other because of the quota allocation. Could it be that you are also in the Heavenly STEM Faculty A course? Emos Suli looked at Mu Qingyun. This Mu Qingyun's ranking was even lower than hers. If this guy could enter, then wouldn't Emos Suli be suppressed by this guy? If he knew that it would be so dark, then who would have stayed here? Therefore, Emos Suli had already decided that if this Mu Qingyun also entered the Heavenly STEM Faculty A course, then she would turn around and leave. She definitely wouldn't stay any longer. I'm in the same class as you. There's still one more. It's that guy. Following Mu Qingyun's gaze, she saw the bronze-skinned Kuan Erisher, who looked very sunny. Kuan Erisher, Heavenly STEM Faculty A course. Student number 01. Many thanks. Emos Suli instantly frowned. It hadn't even started yet, but she had already lost by a large margin. As someone of the same age, no, Emos Suli was older than the other party, she couldn't help but worry. If she couldn't step on this Li Zongjio and that Kuan Erisher, then her title as a genius would be in vain. Although this school wasn't as good as theirs, it definitely wouldn't be that bad. At that annoying guy. Shueiyue received her student information. Heavenly STEM Faculty B course. Although it was 2 grades lower than the Heavenly STEM Faculty A course, the teaching locations of the 2 courses were very close to each other. When Shueiyue saw that Li Zongjio, she immediately became angry from nowhere. It was this rich second generation that came out of nowhere that caused her to lose face. Moreover, this Li Zongjio had snatched away a cauldron that she fancied. This hatred, sooner or later, must be avenged. So this annoying guy is the even more annoying Li Zongjio. Chapter 327. Li Zongjio became the champion of the freshman assessment and deserved the title of Newcomer King. However, the most important thing was that Li Zongjio didn't have the slightest bit of fame before. So much so that no one had even heard of Li Zongjio's name before. To be trampled on by such a nameless person, it was obviously very unpleasant. Therefore, many people believed that Li Zongjio either cheated, gave away money, or got in through the back door. Obviously, his background was very strong. Some people with talent didn't believe that there was someone more talented than them. If there was a chance, it was only a matter of time before a competition would take place. Of course, Li Zongjio didn't know that much. After receiving his student information, he was also led by a senior student. However, not long after he walked out, he bumped into a girl with a ponytail. Li Zongjio had a rather deep impression of this girl. After all, back in the Black North Giant City, this girl had always jumped in front of him. Gongjio. Leave this to me. Gongjio said to the senior in front of him. The senior nodded and hurriedly left. After all, he wasn't from the Heavenly STEM Institution. If he entered the Heavenly STEM Institution's territory, he would feel an inexplicable creepiness. After all, there were too many experts there. If you stayed there for too long, you would feel a strong sense of oppression hanging over your head. How uncomfortable would that be? It was as if everyone was scrutinizing you when they saw you. Hey, junior brother Zongjio, we meet again. Gongjio said to Li Zongjio with a smile. Her hands were behind her back, and she wore a half-skirt with a bright and sunny smile on her face. She already knew that Li Zongjio would definitely succeed. Yeah. Li Zongjio nodded. The smile on Gongjio's face gradually froze. This Li Zongjio was really too boring. He still had such a cold expression on his face. Welcome to our Heavenly STEM Institution's A department. Let me introduce you to the surroundings and at the same time explain the rules of the institution. You've been to the institution before, right? Gongjio also knew Li Zongjio's character. He was such a person, so there was nothing to be confused about. Nope. Li Zongjio replied. Gongjio also looked at Li Zongjio in astonishment. If he hadn't been to the institution before, everyone of his age should have been there before. At the very least, he should be literate. Right? However, it wasn't certain. After all, every family situation was different. It doesn't matter. In any case, the rules of our Heavenly Star Medicine Manor are different from other places. In our Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, there are 2 classes every day. The classes are based on oneself. It doesn't matter if you don't come. However, at the end and beginning of every month, there will be classes for the Heavenly STEM Institution's Dean and the Earth Branch Institution's Dean. If you don't come, then you're basically dead. If you're expelled, then you'll be expelled. In addition, there's no distinction between new and old students. If you don't know the knowledge taught, then you'll have to learn it yourself. Apart from the classes, there will be a test every semester. In addition, you'll have to report to the Academic Affairs Department once a month to prove that you're still alive. The rest of the time can be arranged freely. You can use all the resources in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. You can even listen to the classes of other teachers. There's a total of 6 classes. At the end of the semester, the teachers of each class will grade you. The grade will directly affect your ranking on the Alchemist ranking. Every year, the top 10 of the Alchemist ranking will have the opportunity to enter the forbidden area of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor to study and seek fortune. Suddenly, Li Zongjio stopped in his tracks. What Alchemist ranking? What classes? What nonsense? Li Zongjio wasn't interested in any of them. He was only interested in the forbidden area. This was also the reason why Li Zongjio traveled thousands of miles to the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. It was for the things in the forbidden area. Only the top 10 of the Alchemist ranking are qualified to enter the forbidden area? Li Zongjio asked. It was similar to the answer he got in his previous life. However, it was more specific. He didn't expect that there would be such a thing in it. That's right. You're also interested in this forbidden ground, right? Most of the top geniuses who come here are here for this forbidden ground. It's said that the forbidden ground contains the insights of a pill venerate of the supreme realm. Alchemist venerable? Li Zongjio sneered disdainfully in his heart. If that was really the case, then he was underestimating the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Alchemist venerable. Li Zongjio already had that realm. However, it was still far from enough for him. He was afraid that the forbidden area contained the insights of an alchemist venerable. Thinking of this, Li Zongjio couldn't help but feel excited. How can I get those points quickly? Li Zongjio asked. This was the key point. Some people were too talented. These ordinary classes were a waste of time for them. Therefore, the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor knew how to not waste resources. They didn't want to attend classes and at the same time, they wanted to get those points. There was another way. Yes, of course. There was a glimmer of light in Gongjio's eyes. It was a glimmer of fighting spirit. Genius Tower. Genius Tower. It's that tower. There are 49 floors. There are 3 challenges on each floor. It's a difficult problem in the alchemy world. If you can solve one of them, you'll be able to get a lot of points. Some of the difficult questions in the Genius Pavilion are not simple matters to solve. Whoever solves them first will naturally obtain the most points. However, if one is able to supplement the solution, after being examined by the various deans and teachers, one will also obtain points. Li Zongjio looked over. He suddenly laughed in his heart. Genius Tower. Back then, the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor invited Li Zongjio to study the difficult problems in the Genius Tower. At that time, Li Zongjio had already solved all the difficult problems in the first 48 floors. It shocked the entire alchemy world. However, Li Zongjio's realm was still insufficient for the 49th floor, so it was impossible for him to solve it. However, in such a situation, after more than 2,000 years, he was already at the peak of existence. How many floors have been solved now? Currently, the senior brothers and sisters on the Alchemy Master ranking are trying their best to solve the last difficult problem on the 7th floor. Every floor was a hurdle. The further they went, the difficulty would be unimaginable. What a coincidence! Li Zongjio knew all the answers to the Genius Tower. However, these people were only at this level. They couldn't even pass the 7th floor. How long had it been? The Genius Tower wasn't built by the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. It existed long ago. The Heavenly Star Medicine Manor existed to solve the secrets of the Genius Tower. Gong Jiu looked at the towering Genius Tower and said slowly, "If you can solve the difficult problems in the Genius Tower, you'll be able to become a supreme saint." Li Zongjio said slowly. In his previous life, Li Zongjio was an alchemy master. Therefore, he could easily solve the difficult problems in the first 48 floors. However, he hadn't reached the Supreme Saint realm yet. Therefore, he didn't know how to solve the problem on the 49th floor. As for what the problem was, it was hard to say. He had to use his own realm to comprehend it. However, Li Zongjio wouldn't solve so many difficult problems in advance. If alchemists wanted to improve, they would first need to have an indomitable spirit of exploration. Even if they used the knowledge directly, it might not be the best. For them, it would even bring a certain degree of blockage and self-denial. Because in Li Zongjio's eyes, most of the things refined by alchemists were no different from shit. Take it slow. You can do it too. It's up to a genius like you to solve these problems. We're here. The male dormitory is just ahead. 1 room per person. After all, the students of the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor all had some status. In the future, they would become super alchemists. Therefore, the treatment they received was naturally different. Although it was a large building, there were many rooms in the building. It was like a centralized super hotel. 1 room per person, 1 room per person. The only difference was that there was no lobby or waiter. Let me see your information. Oh, the first room on the left on the 6th floor is yours. Remember, classes will officially start tomorrow. All the notices will be written on the notice board in front of the dormitory building. Pay attention to it. After all, sometimes there will be training outside. Don't miss it. Gongjiu said. Thank you. After Li Zongjio finished speaking, he leaped into the air and flew directly to the corridor of the 6th floor. Take the stairs next time. Gong Jiu immediately shouted when he saw this. Chapter 328. Classes would officially begin the next day. Li Zongjio did not care about classes, as he had no interest in them at all. He had a manual in his hand that detailed some rules, things to take note of in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, and the locations of some functional buildings. For example, the location of the elixir selling building. The purpose of the elixir selling building was to sell elixirs. One could buy elixirs and sell their elixirs there. Of course, one could also sell their elixirs and herbs in the school's flea market. When one needed herbs, one could also search for them in the elixir selling building. The price of herbs was almost half of the outside world's price, but one could not bring them out. Because they had money. In order to nurture alchemists, the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor naturally had to use these herbs. Herbs that were extremely precious in the outside world could be found everywhere in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Preparing some medicinal herbs from time to time was a very comfortable thing. Of course, it was not allowed to resell them in large quantities. However, if one sold them in small quantities, no one would pursue the matter. However, the students of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor basically disdained to do such a thing. After taking a simple look at the rules, Li Zongjio sat on the bed and started a day of cultivation. Li Zongjio had to recite the White God Fu once a day, as the flying knife made from the boundless stone had an extremely strong effect on one's mind power. Therefore, Li Zongjio was able to improve very quickly during the recitation process. His Yuan power cultivation had already broken through to the origin ancestor level, but his mind power was still stuck at the level 3 level, which was far from enough to keep up with this speed. He had to speed up his pace. Another month had passed since that half a year had passed. If Li Zongjio didn't remember wrongly, the original Universe 9 revolving needle was on the 14th floor of the Genius Tower. Once a difficult question in the Genius building was solved, one would obtain the knowledge formed by the question and the answer itself. The Universe 9 rotating needle represented the knowledge on the 14th floor. Therefore, Li Zongjio only needed to solve this problem and he would be able to obtain all the Universe 9 revolving needles. When Li Zongjio had obtained the Universe 9 revolving needle, he had casually thrown it to the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. This item was of no use to Li Zongjio, so he had thrown it away. However, who would have thought that Nanxing would need the Universe 9 revolving needles? Li Zongjio's alchemy skills in his previous life had already reached the pinnacle. What use did he have for acupuncture? The reason why he knew a little about acupuncture back in Guanxi Town was because Li Zongjio had read it once and memorized it. That was why he knew a little about acupuncture. To be able to remember so many things just by looking at it once was indeed very impressive. When Li Zongjio was cultivating alone, he was also cultivating in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. That night, Lonmun's residence was also shrouded in dark clouds. 3 dead, all of them killed in one blow. Yi Lonmun looked at the 3 corpses in front of him and felt a deep sense of anger. The other party was actually so arrogant. He actually dared to kill Yi Lonmun's men in public and even took away all their storage rings. That Bei Ho Liang was simply a good-for-nothing. Bei Ho Liang was now hiding in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor and did not dare to show himself. After all, if he did, only death would await him. Master Yu, why don't we mobilize the Hidden Moon Guards? One of the strategists asked in a probing manner. The Hidden Moon Guards were a troop that Yi Lonmun had secretly trained in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. Besides reporting it to his father, they had never been taken out until now. When Yi Guxing was still alive, there were only 2 Peak Sky Origin Ancestor level experts secretly guarding him. However, there were at least 3 Sky Origin Ancestor level experts in the Hidden Moon Guards. It's just dealing with a country bumpkin. Why do we have to mobilize the Hidden Moon Guards? Is there no one else in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor? Yi Lonmun immediately roared. His eyes were as gloomy as water. When he saw these people, his eyes were filled with resentment. These useless people couldn't even handle such a small matter. The strategists all lowered their heads in shame. This matter was indeed difficult for them to handle. Normally, they would know which restaurant to visit, which brothel to visit, and which new prostitutes to visit. These were all very clear to them. They were all drunkards. When it was time to use them, none of them could do it. Young master, my men heard that Li Zongjio's personal maidservants seem to have left the city. Since Li Zongjio is hiding in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor and refuses to come out, why don't we capture this maidservant and force her out of the manor? She will fall into our trap and be killed directly. When he heard this, a cold glint flashed across Yi Lonmun's eyes. As long as we succeed, I don't care what method you use. Within 3 days, I want to see Li Zongjio's head in front of me. Otherwise, all of you will become corpses. Then I will send all of you back home. It was not easy for them to pass all the tests and enter the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. They were able to become strategists and live a good life. How could they let this opportunity go to waste? But now, someone had to be sacrificed. In order to achieve one's goal, there was no need to choose the means. It was fine as long as they could use it. Li Zongjio naturally knew that San Tong would be in great danger if she left the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. However, Li Zongjio had already imparted his skills to her. Hence, whether San Tong could survive depended on her own luck and ability. If she could not handle it and died accidentally, Li Zongjio would not avenge her. After all, Li Zongjio was not her nanny. Moreover, Li Zongjio had his own matters to attend to. The Azura Cauldron seems to have an extraordinary origin. However, I have never heard of the Azura Cauldron in my previous life. Li Zongjio thought for a while. Indeed, he had never heard of it. After all, it had been so long. Many things could have happened in a few thousand years. This was simply impossible to calculate. Li Zongjio could not have known that he had been reborn and recorded everything in a small book. In the box that came with the Azura Cauldron was a blood-red stone. Azura stone? When Li Zongjio saw this stone, he was shocked. He had never heard of the Azura Cauldron, but Li Zongjio had heard of this Azura stone. Moreover, the appearance of this Azura stone had caused a storm. It was said that this Azura stone was soaked in the blood of Azura. Hence, this Azura stone contained a drop of Azura's blood. Azuras were said to be the killing gods of hell. Li Zongjio had never believed in such rumors before. Asuras were definitely just some kind of powerful origin beast. After all, no one had ever seen hell. However, Li Zongjio had already obtained a world-grade origin art from the soul of the Black Dragon Sovereign, the Hell Prajna art. This directly proved the existence of hell, and that hell was just a relatively more powerful space. Therefore, the Azura stone in his hand and the legend of Azura's blood might not be fake. Whether it's real or fake, I just need to test it out. In the next moment, Li Zongjio grabbed the Azura stone in his hand. Li Zongjio activated the Yuan mantra in his body, and immediately, a surge of energy gushed into the Azura stone. Instantly, a terrifying energy erupted from the Azura stone, as if it wanted to suck Li Zongjio's blood and soul into the stone. "You want to eat me?" Li Zongjio immediately snorted coldly. How could the great evil lord be devoured by a mere stone? In the next moment, Li Zongjio mobilized his mental energy and rushed towards the Azura stone with all his might. Bang! The Azura stone immediately trembled. An intense aura erupted from within the Azura stone. In the end, it transformed into a blood-red figure that appeared within Li Zongjio's mind. Chapter 329. The blood-red figure that appeared in his mind was nearly 10 feet tall, and beneath its feet was a sea of blood. Li Zongjio was shocked to see its terrifying aura. "It's really big, but this is my territory, not yours." A ray of light rose from Li Zongjio's palm. Within the light, there was a flying knife that was slowly rotating. The blood shadow Azura in front of him was neither strong nor weak. If he wanted to completely erase it, he would need a strong mental power. As for Li Zongjio's strongest moves, they were the obsidian flame and the flying knife. Seeing Li Zongjio move, the blood shadow Azura roared. The power of blood in its hands condensed into a long knife, and it slashed down at Li Zongjio. The knife was accompanied by a terrifying bloody light. "Go!" Li Zongjio aimed at his opponent, and with a flick of his hand, the flying knife left his hand. At the same time as the flying knife flew up, it brought along a black light and rushed out. Boom! The flying knife was as thin as a cicada's wing, and as it flew, it was extremely cold. When the blood shadow Azura landed, it slashed at the flying knife. The power of the flying knife broke through the sea of blood in front of it. Around the flying knife, a terrifying light burned, directly burning the surrounding blood until there was nothing left. The blood shadow Azura also felt the terrifying power coming at it. He immediately let out a low roar. But it was immediately defeated by the terrifying mental power of the flying knife. Boom! The blood shadow Azura's body immediately exploded on the spot. The terrifying power poured down, scattering into the sky, and terrifying blood fell to the ground. Li Zongjio reached out with his hand, and the blood was directly sucked into his hand. In the process of condensing, the blood was continuously compressed until it was finally compressed into a palm-sized blood bead in his hand. When the blood bead appeared, Li Zongjio's eyes lit up as he looked at it. Is this the Azura blood? In his previous life, there was someone who had accidentally absorbed this drop of Azura's blood. However, he was unable to control the killing power of the blood within his body. As a result, that person had committed the heinous crime of killing. Back then, the Xingyan dynasty had sent out many experts. In the end, they had paid a painful price to kill that person. After all, at the very beginning, the Xingyan dynasty was not decisive, which led to the loss of many experts, and the Shura blood could be said to be stronger the more they killed. However, it was fortunate that he had stopped it in time. Without hesitation, Li Zongjio stuffed the Azura blood into his mouth and swallowed it whole. After swallowing the Azura blood into his stomach, he completely condensed this power and withdrew from the spiritual world. Li Zongjio sat on the bed and immediately felt as if his whole body was being cut by knives. The Azura blood was rampaging in his body, as if it was constantly looking for a way out. However, Li Zongjio's origin power had completely suppressed it within his body. Evil Soul Eye. Feeling the restlessness of the Azura blood, Li Zongjio immediately forced himself to use his secret skill. The Evil Soul Eye was Li Zongjio's trump card. He would only use it at a critical moment. Under the gaze of the evil soul eye, the Azura blood finally calmed down. It stayed under Li Zongjio's control, waiting for Li Zongjio's power to descend. The blood dragon soul in the origin bead seemed to like the Azura blood very much. It directly stole more than half of the Azura blood's power, strengthening the blood dragon soul's power. Roar! The blood dragon soul roared. Li Zongjio's murderous aura instantly condensed, and the entire dormitory was immediately enveloped by this power. The appearance of this power directly alarmed many of the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor's guardians. One by one, they erupted with their Yuan spirit power and soared into the sky. Who dares to be impudent in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor? The power of the bloody light just now was clearly aimed at the male dormitory and the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. Therefore, this power was extremely tyrannical and precise. However, it came quickly and left quickly. In the blink of an eye, it had already disappeared without a trace. When a group of guardians rushed into the sky, they realized that the monstrous murderous aura had disappeared. That aura just now was at least that of a Yuan monarch elite. The disciples of the academy did not have such strength. They had not expected that someone would be so bold as to covet the people of the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. Could it be that they wanted to make a move in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor? The more this was the case, the more they had to let these people know how powerful they were. It seems like someone has been unable to control himself recently and wants to make a move on the disciples of the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. I would like to see who is so bold. Angering the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor was not an easy thing to get away with. The consequences could be said to be rather serious. After today's incident, they had to deploy more people around the area and pay more attention to their surroundings. Even Monarch City was not the safest place. The safest place was, of course, one's own hands. As long as one's strength was strong enough, one would be absolutely safe no matter where one went. Li Zongjio easily controlled this bloody aura. He suppressed it within his body. The blood dragon soul seemed to be a little excited, but it was restrained by Li Zongjio. Otherwise, it would have been blinded by the murderous aura just now. Then, it would have been dominated by the murderous aura. Even if one knew that one's condition was not right, there was no way to control this power. This was the most tragic moment. It's just a drop of blood, yet it possesses such terrifying power. How strong would a real Azura be? Li Zongjio could not help but wonder. If Azura came from hell, then he might be extremely strong. However, one thing was certain, he had yet to reach the Saint Realm. If he had reached the Saint Realm, then Li Zongjio would not have been able to refine this blood so easily. My Yuan power has increased by another grade. Second grade Origin Ancestor Realm. Almost no one would dare to believe that this kind of breakthrough speed was possible. It was a little too monstrous. Before this, Li Zongjio had not had much time to break through to the Origin Ancestor Realm. I'm not in a hurry to go to the Genius Tower yet. I don't have many elixirs left. I have to replenish them. Li Zongjio looked at his empty storage ring. He still couldn't keep up with the consumption. It seemed like he had to refine more elixirs. Li Zongjio obtained some money from the corpses of the assassins yesterday. Li Zongjio went to the pharmacy. The elixirs here are indeed cheap. This little benefit is not bad. In the outside world, a stock of a third-grade elixir would cost at least 10,000 gold yuan. However, in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, it would only cost 3,000 gold yuan. There was even a discount if one bought 1,000 stocks in one go. Clearly, this was to encourage the students to refine elixirs. After all, they had not practiced for 3 days. No matter how strong their theoretical experience was, they still needed to operate their own bodies to succeed. I want 500 stalks of tiger tail orchid, 500 stalks of sky sunflower, 500 stalks of earth-ean flower. Li Zongjio wrote down his requirements and the quantity of elixirs. The staff of the medicine store did not seem surprised by the large quantity of elixirs he had requested. After all, the students who came here basically did the same thing. Very few people bought elixirs stock by stock, as they were not that poor. If they casually refined an elixir, they could put it in the medicine store and sell it. Wouldn't they be able to earn money this way? However, the medicine store did not purchase elixirs below the 3rd grade. Therefore, they still needed to cross this threshold. However, for the students who could enter the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, it would not take long for them to cross the threshold of the third-grade alchemist. As for how much of their success rate they could achieve, it would depend on their own ability. Your elixirs will cost a total of 5 million gold yuan. These were only ordinary materials. However, with Li Zongjio's strength, he could turn something rotten into something magical. Of course, he would still need some supplementary elixirs. With my current strength, I might be able to challenge the Daluo Heaven Vein Elixir. The Daluo Heaven Vein Elixir. It was an elixir refined with the 7-star heavenly vein as the main ingredient. It was a 5th-grade elixir. Li Zongjio had experience in refining elixirs. As for strength, with his current strength of a 2nd-grade origin ancestor and the protection of the 4 great origin spirits, it was not impossible. However, Li Zongjio first needed to familiarize himself with the Azura cauldron in his hands. In addition, he also needed to prepare a few more elixirs. "Excuse me, does this place sell the Great Desolate Grass?" Li Zongjio asked. The person who had been sleepy all this time also opened his eyes wide. Someone with good taste actually knew about the Great Desolate Grass. There were not many people who knew about the Great Desolate Grass. Not this month, but there are 30 stalks coming in next month. Do you want to reserve them? I'll take them all, Li Zongjio said. He did not expect the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor to be so capable. They could even get the Great Desolate Grass. Chapter 330. Murong Jian opened his cauldron. The medicinal herbs inside were instantly destroyed. The medicinal liquid that he had painstakingly refined was now a pile of trash. He was originally just one step away from success, but who would have thought that at such a crucial moment, the power of the Yuan rune array would suddenly disappear, as if it had been snatched away by someone else. This was a 5th-level Yuan rune array. Could it be that there was someone who could extract the power of this 5th-level Yuan rune array? Therefore, although Murong Jian was furious, he was still very calm in his heart. This was because it was very likely that the problem was with the Yuan rune array of the Heavenly Fire Pagoda. It seemed like he had to seek justice from the elders of the Heavenly Fire Pagoda. It was actually because of this Yuan inscription array that his elixir had been destroyed. Otherwise, he would have been able to refine a mid-grade grade 4 elixir by now. Even the elders of the Medicine Manor will have to give an explanation for this. Murong Jian's eyes flashed with a cold light. Then, Murong Jian put away the cauldron in his hand and walked out of the Heavenly Fire Pagoda. However, he saw many people gathered below the Heavenly Fire Pagoda and looked up. One must know that there would be a certain amount of energy in the Heavenly Fire Pagoda if it was being used. Even though Murong Jian had come out, the light above the Heavenly Fire Pagoda was still lit. This meant that the person who was controlling the power of the Heavenly Fire Pagoda was not Murong Jian. Senior brother Murong. What? When the students saw Murong Jian walk out, they were all shocked. Murong Jian also turned around to look at the Heavenly Fire Pagoda. What? Who else is using the Heavenly Fire Pagoda? Murong Jian's eyes immediately revealed a fierce light. It turned out that it was not a problem with the Heavenly Fire Pagoda. Instead, someone was controlling more power, so the energy was directly taken away. When such a situation occurred, Murong Jian could not help but become furious. You're clearly here to mess things up, to purposely disrupt Murong Jian's pill concoction. At the most crucial moment, you've diverted the power away. This is clearly a premeditated plan. You're here to purposely disrupt his impactful alchemy. At such a crucial moment, it was actually sabotaged by someone. If it was anyone else, they would probably fly into a rage. However, Murong Jian did not immediately go berserk. Those few underlings also quickly arrived in front of Murong Jian. Looking at his bruised and swollen face, it was obvious that he had been forced in later. What happened to your faces? Who else went in after me? Murong Jian asked in a deep voice. I was beaten up by a new student. After you, he also went in to concoct pills. Us brothers wanted to stop him, but we were beaten up by him. We've never seen him before. One of them braced himself and said, 5 against 1, and in the end, they were defeated. This was too hilarious. How many people? Murong Jian asked. What? One? Are you saying that he alone is able to mobilize almost 100% of the origin pattern formation's power? Murong Jian's face fell. Right now, these people did not even know how many people had gone in. A freshman? A freshman who had just entered the school was able to mobilize the 5th level origin pattern formation of the Heavenly Fire Pagoda. Could it be that this freshman was a Yuan King elite? Guard this place. I want to see who caused such a huge commotion and destroyed my alchemy. Even if they can destroy it once, do you think they can destroy it a second time? Murong Jian said in a deep voice. Fortunately, he did not suffer any injuries this time. Otherwise, he would have suffered a great loss. Fortunately, he was more familiar with the alchemy. It was just that he had not succeeded this time. However, Murong Jian wanted to know who was behind this. Inside the Heavenly Fire Pagoda, Li Zongjio opened the lid of the Azura cauldron. Immediately, a fragrant smell filled the air. Looking at the cauldron full of alchemy pills, Li Zongjio casually took out one pill to take a look. The effect is not bad. 50 pills, not one less. Moreover, there are still some of them. The quality is not bad. Li Zongjio nodded. The effect of the Azura cauldron was indeed impressive. When the flames of the origin pattern formation surged into the cauldron, one could still feel the effect and power of the Azura cauldron. There was no fluctuation. Even now, it was still in an ice-cold state. At this rate, one would need to refine at least a grade 6 alchemy pill before it would heat up. At the same time, this also showed that the limit of the Azura cauldron was very high. Just this cauldron of alchemy pills had directly refined 55 soul essence pills. If the 5 souls essence pill were to be sold in the market outside, the price alone would be enough for Li Zongjio to live a carefree life. The market price of a grade 4 mid-grade alchemy pill was about 500,000 purple yuan. Therefore, Li Zongjio's cauldron of alchemy pills alone was worth 25 million purple yuan. The money spent on the Azura cauldron would probably be earned back quickly. After all, the Azura cauldron only cost a total of 70 million purple yuan. However, to be able to refine 50 grade 4 alchemy pills in one cauldron, such strength was simply outrageous. Who would have such ability? To be able to control the formation of 50 alchemy pills in one go. The cost of the alchemy pills was also very low. It was almost a net profit. Of course, one also needed strength. For example, that person called Murong Jian had spent so much effort to refine one pill, but he had not succeeded. This showed the gap between them. If it was not for entering the forbidden area to gain experience, Li Zongjio would have collected a large number of herbs to refine alchemy pills and then raised his strength. At the same time, he would have cleaned up all the people who would be a threat in the future. The effect of the Heavenly Flame Tower's origin pattern formation is not bad. If it was not for the fact that he had mobilized so much flame power to rush into the Azura cauldron at the last critical moment. In the end, only half of the alchemy pills would have been successful. The rest would have been directly melted. Li Zongjio kept the Azura cauldron. The alchemy pills in his hand were already enough to last him for a month. Of course, if there were no accidents. He put the key back in its original position. When he walked out, he saw many people blocking the door. They seemed to be waiting for someone. When Li Zongjio pushed open the door and walked out, the leader of the group looked over. "Senior brother Murong, it's him." One of the people who had been knocked down by Li Zongjio hurriedly said to Murong Jian. Murong Jian immediately took a step forward and stood in front of Li Zongjio. The rest of the people also came up and surrounded Li Zongjio. "Were you the one refining the alchemy pills?" Murong Jian coldly looked at Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio looked at the people surrounding him with disdain. Then he looked at Murong Jian. "Scram." Murong Jian's indifferent tone and disdainful gaze. There was actually someone who dared to ask Murong Jian to scram in the Heavenly Star Medicine manner? Could it be that the new students these days did not bring their brains in? How could they enter the Heavenly Star Medicine manner with such intellect? Murong Jian's gaze suddenly became ferocious. The surrounding students also became extremely frightened. Besides his strong alchemy talent, The reason why Murongjian was so famous was because he was a prince in the Sacred Flame royal city. Although he was not the legitimate prince, he was still conferred the title by the royal family. Murongjian's father was one of the top 10 experts in the Xingyan dynasty, Emperor Murong Yunzhan. He was a true powerhouse at the Yuan king level. Putting aside his relationship with the royal family, how many people would dare to provoke the steward who had the strength of a Yuan king? Murongjian was tested to have an alchemy talent and became Murong Yunzhan's most beloved son. Who would dare to provoke Murongjian? Now, this new student who came out of nowhere actually dared to ask Murongjian to scram? Chapter 331. Although there was no such rule, the alchemists on the alchemy master ranking were all grade 4 alchemists. Murongjian was a grade 4 middle alchemist. As long as he could refine a grade 4 high alchemy pill, he would have a chance to compete with the 10th ranked alchemist on the alchemy master ranking. To enter the top 10, one would need to be a grade 4 high alchemist. Even the chief of the Black North Giant Cities Medicine Alliance, Han Qinglu, he was only a grade 4 low alchemist. Could it be that the strength of the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor students were all monsters? This was too terrifying. To be able to enter the top 10 of the alchemy master ranking, one would need such strength. The top 10 alchemists of the alchemist list were basically all level 4 advanced alchemists. As for whether there were any stronger alchemists, it was unknown. At this level, a slight exposure of one's strength would be easily noticed by the opponent. Therefore, this was a very important thing. It was precisely because the alchemy this time had been prepared for a long time and was very well prepared. Hence, when the alchemists came, they specially greeted them and arranged for some people to guard the door to prevent any disturbances. After Li Zongjio sat down, he felt that although the alchemy room was sealed, it had the function of ventilation. It should be the effect of the Yuan rune array. The dark red Azura cauldron was placed on the ground. After the center of the rune array sensed the presence of the Azura cauldron, it automatically lit up. As long as one poured in his Yuan rune array, it would form a powerful flame and pour it into the cauldron. Let's familiarize ourselves with the Azura cauldron first. Li Zongjio poured the obsidian fire into the cauldron. Without using the power of the Yuan rune array, the obsidian fire burned quietly in the Azura cauldron. The high temperature of the obsidian fire was applied to the Azura cauldron, but the cauldron itself did not emit any heat. This meant that the temperature was well maintained. Not bad. A cauldron with this kind of performance is not expensive even if it is sold for 100 million. Li Zongjio nodded inwardly. As a sovereign alchemist, he did not need to waste too much time. He directly threw in all kinds of herbs into the cauldron. The burning sparks immediately refined the herbs. With Li Zongjio's experience, even if the conditions were relatively simple, it was still possible to refine pills. In fact, there were even some combinations where the herbs weren't of a high grade, but it was possible to refine even higher grade pills. That was true ability. He used all the herbs that he bought from the medicine store. There was a total of 50 sets of pills. Li Zongjio threw them all into the Azura furnace in one go, preparing to refine them all in one go. 50 pills in one go? And they were all grade 4 pills. The 5 high alchemists cauldron soul cauldron alchemists cauldron level. 5 alchemists level was cauldron master array, level master's soul strength. Was refining. 1 heart spirit soul power. Level alchemist. Would master, will stronger. Strong transcends strength great level strength. Although they were not the same thing, they were closely related. The Triflower Soul Gathering pill only had the effect of strengthening one's Yuan power. At the same time, it could also refresh one's mind and strengthen one's foundation. However, the effect of the 5 Soul Essence pill was clearly even more powerful. Among the pills, it was ranked as a mid-grade grade 4 pill. With Li Zongjio's current strength, it was not difficult for him to refine it. When Li Zongjio had refined the 3-flower energy gathering elixir, his Yuan power had still been at the level of a Yuan general. Now, he was already at the level of a Yuan ancestor. Furthermore, he had the Azura cauldron, which was comparable to a grade 6 Yuan artifact. Naturally, it was easy to do. As the flames burned fiercely, some of the medicinal ingredients within the pill furnace emitted crackling sounds. It was an extremely enjoyable sound to listen to. Because there were a lot of herbs, Li Zongjio wasn't in a hurry. When he was free, Li Zongjio even read the White God poem. In the end, that white dragon origin spirit also appeared, guarding Li Zongjio's medicinal cauldron. Boom! The obsidian flame burned fiercely. The few people outside the heavenly flame house also slowly woke up. At this moment, they glanced at each other. They did not know when that fella had snuck in. If he really caused any trouble, they would be in trouble. No, we have to call some people. If that fella dares to mess around, we will directly cripple him. Senior brother Murong's refining is extremely important. If he is interrupted, the consequences will be unimaginable. Quickly call some people. We can't let that fella escape. Someone roared. Immediately, the few of them split up. Who would have thought that the 5 of them, seniors, would actually be taken care of by a freshman? If this matter were to spread out, it would be an extremely shameful matter. Therefore, it was better for everyone to keep this matter to themselves. At this moment, Murong Jian had already reached a crucial moment in refining the pill. All of the herbs were being carefully refined. Behind Murong Jian, a fiery red dragon was floating. The dragon was roaring in a low voice. It was actually a rank 5 explosive flame dragon. Although it had yet to mature into a complete form, it was still a Yuan king bloodline. The existence of such a Yuan spirit directly became a powerful support. The explosive flame dragon roared and spat out flames in the air, helping Murong Jian condense the medicinal liquid in his hand. Condense! It took a lot of effort and a long period of output to finally condense the medicinal liquid. Seeing that the most difficult step had been passed, the next step was to maintain the flame at an extremely high level. Then, the medicinal liquid would display its power and form the pill. This was enough for Murong Jian to refine the pill. I spent a lot of money to find the improved pill formula of the 5-soul origin pill. The success rate is indeed extraordinary. With such a success rate, it is enough for me to successfully refine the pill. The pill that Murong Jian was refining was actually the 5-soul origin pill. The improvement of a pill formula was a very important matter for alchemists. In the end, it was also a very beneficial thing. For example, Murong Jian had grasped the latest and improved pill formula. It would be better and easier for him to refine a rank 4 middle pill. He would become a celebrity on the alchemist ranking in advance. Therefore, this refinement was very important for Murong Jian. Time passed. The medicinal liquid in the medicinal cauldron had already started to condense and continue to condense energy. Activate the energy. Murong Jian poured his Yuan Qi into the heavenly fire pagoda. The Yuan rune array of the heavenly fire pagoda immediately erupted with a terrifying power and surged towards Murong Jian. From the outside, one could see the light emitted from the heavenly fire pagoda. The scene that was shown caused the people outside to cry out in surprise. It's here. Senior brother Murong has activated at least 1/3 of the heavenly fire pagoda's power. The power within the heavenly fire pagoda was only used to accelerate the impact at a critical moment. For example, the final push required the power of the heavenly fire pagoda's Yuan rune array. Boom! Just as 1/3 of the Yuan pattern array's might was unleashed, its power suddenly surged. The members of the Earth branch, who were waiting below, were all watching this scene unfold. Damn, the energy of the Yuan rune array has soared. It has already reached half of its power. Could it be that senior brother Murong is refining a rank 5 elixir? Someone cried out in surprise. However, the situation here was not over yet. The Yuan rune array of the heavenly fire pagoda was still releasing its power. In the end, the might of the entire heavenly flame house was unleashed, lighting up with a terrifying radiance. Seeing this scene, even some of the people who were still training in other places stood up one after another and looked towards the direction of the building. It had been a long time since the heavenly fire pagoda was so lively. After all, even if they were refining a rank 4 middle pill, they could only activate 1/3 of the Yuan rune array's power. But now it had reached half of its power, or even higher. Boom! The alchemy cauldron in Murong Jian's hand instantly let out a muffled sound. The medicinal cauldron violently shook. Murong Jian could clearly see the terrifying black smoke rising from his own medicinal cauldron. When he saw the black smoke rising, Murong Jian's face was so gloomy that it was about to drip water. Chapter 333. You still don't know who I am, right? Murong Jian's lips curled into a cold smile. If this wasn't the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, he would definitely let this Li Zongjio have a taste of the power of his Murong family's war god fist. But even if this was the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, he wouldn't let this Li Zongjio off so easily. Such audacity! Who the hell are you? Li Zongjio looked at Murong Jian. Murong Jian's words had ignited Murong Jian's anger. With his status, if he were to teach a new student a lesson, it would be a loss of his status. Bullying the weak, it would cause people to gossip. Furthermore, as a student of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, he didn't recommend using violence to solve problems. The most direct method was to have an alchemy battle. Very well, kid, do you dare to have an alchemy battle with me? Whoever loses will be the alchemy boy of the other party for 3 months. Do you dare or not? Murong Jian coldly looked at Li Zongjio. Looking at Li Zongjio's appearance, he probably didn't have much money to compensate. If he were to become the alchemy boy, he would have many ways to torture Li Zongjio. As long as Li Zongjio agreed, Murong Jian would have 100 ways to make Li Zongjio piss his pants. This was confidence. If he didn't even have this confidence, then what was the point of staying in the academy? The 12th place on the alchemy master ranking wasn't for nothing. If he couldn't even handle a new student, then he, Murong Jian, wouldn't be able to stay in the academy. Idiot, if you don't get lost, I'll make my move. Although Li Zongjio knew that a place like the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor would have a lot of arrogant people who were actually idiots, he never thought that he would meet one on the first day. Fortunately, he had encountered it himself. If he had encountered someone with a bad temper, he would have been in trouble. Kid, your intestines would probably have been dug out by someone by now. Still want to compete in alchemy? More like compete your grandpa. Li Zongjio's repeated curses had already made Murong Jian feel that his face had been swept to the ground. Furthermore, his invitation for an alchemy battle was directly ignored. This was an extremely provocative action, because there was another hidden meaning behind it. That was, no matter what you say, I don't think you have the qualifications to compete with me in alchemy. What are you doing here? Causing trouble in the middle of the night? Is this Heavenly Flame Pavilion a place for you to fight and cause trouble? It seems that the mission given to you is too light. Are all of you itching for a beating? Just as Murong Jian was about to explode, 2 student teachers walked over. In the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor, the mentors and elders were separate organizations. The elders usually did not interact with the students. They were responsible for providing services and even protection in certain areas. On the other hand, the instructors had the right to supervise the students. Furthermore, they could also give out rewards and punishments based on your usual situation. If all of your points were deducted, then even if your skills were high, you would not be able to enter the alchemy master ranking. Therefore, when they saw the 2 mentors walk over, these people all became well-behaved. Even the insufferably arrogant Murong Jian, who looked as if he wanted to eat someone, also withdrew his fierce expression. Teacher Xuelin, Teacher Jiang. The students all politely greeted them. The ones who came were a man and a woman. The man was close to 50 years old and had a white goatee on his chin. He gave off a sage-like feeling, as if he could easily refine an elixir with a wave of his sleeve. The other was a beautiful woman in her 20s. The woman's clothes were simple and there was a faint medicinal fragrance on her body. However, she had a string of copper bells in her hand. The copper bells were called the 1,000 medicine bells. It was a souvenir for the top 10 participants of the Holy Flame Alchemist competition. Just the 1,000 medicine bells alone showed that this woman's identity was not ordinary. Now that she had become an instructor of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, the Holy Flame Alchemist competition would gather all the alchemists under the age of 25 to compete. After winning, there would be a very generous reward. Of course, To these alchemists, the reward was understandable. The most important thing was reputation. How many people in this world could be indifferent to fame and fortune? Either they were cowards and knew that they could not win, so they did not participate. There were many excuses. Whether you believed it or not was up to you. The woman's name was Yang Xuelin. She was the 10th place winner of the previous alchemist competition. In the entire world, among so many young alchemists, she stood out. She was qualified to become an instructor of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. In addition, before graduation, Yang Xuelin's ranking had always been 3rd place on the Alchemist Master ranking. With such an impressive result, it was no wonder that these students were so obedient. In front of Yang Xuelin, they did not have the right to be impudent. In terms of family background, she was not bad. In terms of strength, she was several heads higher than you. What right did you have to order her around? Yang Xuelin swept a glance. Murong Jian was not someone to be trifled with. There was actually someone who dared to provoke Murong Jian. This was interesting. What are you doing here? Are you not going to attend class tomorrow? Yang Xuelin said indifferently. Although they were only a few years old, in front of Yang Xuelin, these people were like children. They stood there obediently. Even Murong Jian could feel a sense of oppression from Yang Xuelin. However, in Murong Jian's eyes, that trace of adoration was still there. It did not disappear. However, he needed to hide it now. He could not let others see it. It was a little too early to pursue Yang Xuelin now. At the very least, he needed to wait until he participated in the alchemist competition. Originally, he could have reached the 10th place on the alchemist master ranking today. However, he was interrupted by that damned brat Li Zongjio. This made Murong Jian even angrier. He could not help but want to directly cut off Li Zongjio's head. No, this is not a new junior brother. He doesn't know the way. We are just showing him the way. A more tactful person looked at the current situation and smiled as he walked out to smooth things over. Could it be that Li Zongjio insulted Murong Jian in front of everyone, and now Murong Jian wanted to kill him? I didn't ask you. Yang Xuelin said. She then looked at Li Zongjio. This fool wants to compete with me in alchemy. I don't have time, so he wants to call people to beat me up. Li Zongjio said. His tone was helpless. It sounded like Li Zongjio was the weaker party and was being bullied. However, Li Zongjio was very arrogant just now. Everyone saw it. Now that he came here and purposely pretended to be weak, it was really disgusting. However, it's fortunate that they met me. If they met someone with a bad temper outside, all of them can forget about living. After saying that, Li Zongjio gestured to the people in front of him. Such an arrogant attitude. Wasn't the subtext meaning that if they accidentally provoked him outside, they would be killed by Li Zongjio? He was blatantly threatening them. One of them was even the son of Murong Wang. Although the rest of them couldn't be compared to Murong Jian in terms of status, they were definitely not ordinary people. Did Li Zongjio know the weight of his words? When Yang Xuelin heard Li Zongjio's words, her eyes were wide open. She didn't expect Li Zongjio to say such words. Murong Jian's people knew how to smooth things over and ease the tension between them. However, Li Zongjio didn't plan to give them any face. Murong Jian's face had already turned green. Even his fists were clenched so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. If there weren't so many people present, Li Zongjio would have been pressed to the ground and beaten up. What's your name? Which class are you from? Yang Xuelin couldn't help but ask. Heavenly STEM Department A class, Li Zongjio. Chapter 334. Heavenly STEM Department A class. Freshmen? It was said that this year, only 2 freshmen were admitted into the Heavenly STEM Department A class directly. Otherwise, to enter the Heavenly STEM Department A class, one would need to perform well for half a year. Only with excellent performance would one be able to enter the Heavenly STEM Department A class. It was the only class that was special. Moreover, until now, there were only 15 students in the Heavenly STEM Department A class. Including Li Zongjio and Kun Erisher, there were only 17 students in total. Moreover, amongst these students, there were already 10 names on the alchemist ranking. The top 10 were all from the A class of the Heavenly Influence Department. With this kind of strength, they were basically the ace class that the Academy had specially created. After all, as the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, it naturally needed some strong students to compete for the ranking. It wasn't within the school but between the schools. There would often be some prestigious competitions. At that time, someone would need to participate and obtain a ranking to convince the public. Li Zongjio? You're the Li Zongjio who alarmed the Heavenly Pool Spiritual Jiao? Murong Jian was also shocked. The Heavenly Pool Spiritual Jiao was a difficult problem in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. After all, the Heavenly Pool Spiritual Jiao's standards were very high. It wouldn't even bother to eat elixirs refined by ordinary people. Therefore, if someone's elixir could attract the Heavenly Pool Spiritual Jiao, it was also a kind of recognition and proof. Therefore, after this incident, Li Zongjio's reputation had also entered the ears of the teachers and students. So it was the legendary Li Zongjio. No wonder he was so arrogant. But so what if he was Li Zongjio? The one he provoked today was Murong Jian. So it's you. It's your first day in the school. Are you trying to overturn the heavens? Disperse, Yang Xuelin said. In other people's opinion, Li Zongjio might have left, but Yang Xuelin's strength was not weak. At least for now, it was not a problem for her to suppress Li Zongjio. After all, she was several years older than him. Then Li Zongjio would be able to dominate this place. We'll take our leave first. Goodbye, teacher. Murong Jian also cupped his hands together and fiercely glared at Li Zongjio before turning around and leaving with a flick of his sleeves. If you dare to glare at me again, I'll dig your eyes out. Li Zongjio pointed at Murong Jian and cursed. Li Zongjio did not turn around. Now that Yang Xuelin was here, it was impossible for her to make a move. Naturally, Murong Jian let Li Zongjio have the advantage of words. However, this scene also made many people think that Li Zongjio was too arrogant. Tomorrow morning, Li Zongjio's arrogant reputation would probably spread throughout the entire Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. The 8 classes of these 2 great courtyards would thoroughly know how difficult it was to deal with Li Zongjio. A new student who just came in had actually offended Murong Jian, who was ranked 12th on the alchemist ranking. This time, there would be a good show to watch. The 2 of you goodbye. Li Zongjio cupped his hands and said to the 2 of them. Although he was here to enter the school, he was not here to become a disciple. Therefore, he did not treat these people as his teachers. Seeing Li Zongjio being so arrogant, Yang Xuelin and old Jiang helplessly shook their heads. Young and impetuous. This is even more arrogant than you were back then. Old Jiang said with a smile. Teacher, you must be joking. Yang Xuelin also helplessly smiled. When she was in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, old Jiang was her teacher. On the road of growth, he had also brought a lot of help to Yang Xuelin. Therefore, Yang Xuelin was also very respectful towards him. In my opinion, there is no need to check. The elixir aura on Li Zongjio's body is the aura of the 5 soul essence pill. From the mixed aura, it seems that he refined more than 1 pill at a time. Old Jiang narrowed his eyes and said, although he didn't say a single word, and his entire person seemed to be invisible, he was the one who observed the most carefully among the people present. Moreover, old Jiang's alchemy cultivation was also the highest among the people present. Although his alchemy level might not be as good as the current Yang Xuelin, in terms of experience, he was still more powerful than some of the young people. Therefore, although Li Zongjio only carried a little bit of elixir on his body, he immediately sensed it. What? He just entered the school. How could he refine level 4 middle elixir, and more than 1? This time, Yang Xuelin was shocked. Even Yang Xuelin was only a level 4 peak alchemist and had not broken through to the level 5. Naturally, it was not a problem to refine a middle grade 4 medicinal pill. However, to refine 2 or more pills at once would be a little difficult. But Li Zongjio was actually able to refine more than 1 middle elixir at the same time, and they were all level 4 middle elixir. Then, wouldn't his level be on par with Yang Xuelin's? Some people don't come here to study. After all, the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor doesn't necessarily offer the best. There are really top-notch places. The Heavenly Star Medicine Manor can only be considered as a slightly better place. Old Jiang said. Originally, they came to see what was going on in the heavenly flame house. After all, it was very difficult to not notice such a big movement. However, when they came here, they did not show up. But when they saw that Li Zongjio was about to fight with them, they came out and tried to dissuade them. If they were to fight, the consequences would be unimaginable. No matter which side lost, the impact would be very bad. That's true. Yang Xueli nodded. When she first entered the Heavenly Time Medicine Mansion, she thought that everyone was powerful and mysterious. But after she graduated, she came into contact with a higher level. She finally understood that the Heavenly Time Medicine Mansion was only the highest level of learning for ordinary people. There were also many cultivation places that ordinary people could not come into contact with. Only when your realm reached a certain level, then you could come into contact with this level. Now, Yang Xuelin was slowly coming into contact with this level. If she wanted to go further, then she must first increase her strength. This was the most important thing. The two of them also left. It was fine as long as the conflict did not escalate. However, from the looks of it, the dispute between Li Zongjio and Murong Jian would not end so easily. She did not know what Li Zongjio wanted to do. He actually provoked people like Murong Jian. Murong Jian was not someone to be trifled with. However, Yang Xuelin also saw the detachment in Li Zongjio's eyes. Although he looked stupid, in fact, Li Zongjio did not put these people in his eyes. He did not even put the Heavenly Time Medicine Mansion in his eyes. How can there be such a person? Let me check this kid's background. At this moment, the night was dark and the wind was strong. In a dense forest 20 miles away from the sacred flame royal city, San Tong's figure was hiding on a tree trunk. He was restraining his aura. The sword in his hand was also stained with blood. A few figures whizzed through the forest. When he landed, he quickly carried out a round of interrogation. Over there. Don't let him escape. We must catch him, otherwise, you and I will not be able to live. The few men in black roared. San Tong held his breath. When he saw the last man rushing in a direction, San Tong quietly caught up with him. Since you want to play, I'll play with you. Let's fight until the world turns upside down. Chapter 335. The next day, early morning. Dong dong dong. Li Zongjio opened his eyes. The sky was already bright. After opening the door, he saw Kuan Erishur standing at the door. Morning, I live next door to you. Shall we go to class together? Kuan Erishur said. Kuan Erishur was very lucky to be able to enter the A class at the same time. According to common sense, Kuan Erishur shouldn't be able to enter the A class. However, his identity in Kuan Castle gave him extra points. Furthermore, this Heavenly Day Medicine Manor didn't want Li Zongjio to be arrogant. They needed to nurture a genius of the same level and let them compete with each other. That was why they sent two of them in at the same time. Not interested. Li Zongjio closed the door after saying that. Not interested? Kuan Erishur widened his eyes. This Li Zongjio went through so much trouble and came all the way here just to enter this Heavenly Day Medicine Manor. Now that he could go to class, he actually said that he wasn't interested. Could it be that he heard wrongly? This first class is a class with a great beauty. I heard that she's the winner of the last alchemist competition. TSK, you're really not interested? Kuan Erishur shouted at Li Zongjio's door. However, there was no response. It was as if she had disappeared. This cultivation maniac. Kuan Erishur shook his head helplessly and went to class alone. When Kuan Erishur arrived at the classroom, he only saw a lazy figure sitting on the podium in the empty classroom. You're alone? Isn't there a new student? The person on the podium was wearing an alluring red robe. If one didn't know, they would think that it was a nightgown. The robe was slim and tight, perfectly outlining the figure of the lecturer in front of him. With such a figure, anyone who saw it couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Kuan Erishur was naturally feeling smug in his heart. He never thought that the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor's teaching environment would be so good. Tutor, greetings. I'm Kuan Erishur. There's another one. He's not feeling well. Kuan Erishur was actually a little nervous. He found a seat in the middle and sat down. That guy is pretty gutsy. He actually dared to skip class on the first day. I'll remember it. Also, my name is Ling Yen, you can call me Sister Yen. I'm your homeroom teacher, not a teacher. Our class doesn't have classes. You're free to move around. You can attend any teacher's class. Alright, scram. Don't stay in front of me. At the end of the semester, if you can't break through to advanced level 4, then don't stay in my class. Pack up your bed and leave. The red-robed woman said indifferently. She waved her hand casually. Even her posture of telling people to scram was extremely charming, causing people to be unable to extricate themselves from it. Got it. Kuan Arisher didn't think that it would be such a situation. Furthermore, the meteorite had become the core of the incandescent mountain. It was said that the temperature at the core of the incandescent mountain could easily melt even a Yuan monarch elite. However, the strange thing was that this temperature could only melt flesh and blood. All other types of energy could exist. Therefore, there were some rather powerful spiritual herbs that contained fire elemental energy growing beside the meteorite. In addition, some fire elemental beasts with extremely high tolerance also directly used the power of the incandescent mountain to cultivate. If a Yuanzong elite got close to the incandescent mountain, they would definitely feel the scorching heat within 1,000 meters. If they got close to the incandescent mountain, they would start to feel uncomfortable. This high temperature was like staying in a medicinal cauldron and suffering. If they got close to the incandescent mountain, they would probably die from the heat. There was no way to get close to the incandescent mountain without a proper method. The Heavenly Star Medicine Hall wanted to obtain these fire elemental herbs. At the same time, they also wanted to achieve the effect of training the abilities of their students. Therefore, they would let these students personally pick the herbs. The most shameful thing was that this was a glorified name. Extracurricular activities. Extracurricular activities had a special characteristic. Those who didn't have a mission weren't allowed to participate. After all, there were still some restrictions after joining the academy. Chapter 336. Li Zongjio swallowed a 5-soul essence pill. Suddenly, he felt his soul grow stronger, as if he had been enlightened. The effect of the 5-soul essence pill was still very significant among the 4th-grade pills. However, no matter how rich a person was, it was difficult for them to be like Li Zongjio, who ate these pills as if they were jelly beans without feeling any heartache. Even Yang Xuelin, as a level 5 alchemist, would need at least half a month to prepare to refine the 5-soul origin pill. Even if she was prepared, she would need to spend a lot of time to recuperate her body after the refinement was completed. After all, in the case of alchemy, the body's meridians were like a fuse, constantly sending the fire elemental energy into the medicine cauldron. Therefore, it was also a great loss to the body's meridians. No one could continuously refine pills for a long time, unless they didn't want to live, then they could try it. Li Zongjio, with the help of the Azura cauldron, directly refined 50 pills in one furnace. The same time, but the efficiency was completely different. This was also the difference between a high-level alchemist and an ordinary alchemist. If an ordinary alchemist wanted to reach such a cultivation level, it would take at least 100 years of accumulation. Geniuses were just geniuses, but those real masters, with hundreds of years of alchemy experience, were not just for show. Even if there was a slight difference, it could have a huge impact on the overall effect of the alchemy. After refining a 5-soul essence pill, Li Zongjio also felt that his mental strength had improved a lot. To a certain extent, the blood-spirit world also relies on mental strength and the accumulation of killing intent. With my many years of killing experience, my understanding of the blood-spirit world is higher than that of the blood dragon sovereign. Therefore, improving my mental strength is the best way. Li Zongjio thought. Mental energy was very important, so Li Zongjio had never slacked off. The vast flying knife in his hand was constantly enhancing Li Zongjio's Jin Xingli, so his cultivation speed had also increased. Now isn't the time to train in the infernal prajna technique. As for the comprehension of the black bat sword, I'll have to wait for a good opportunity in the future. My physical strength still has a lot of room for improvement. Li Zongjio calculated. It was extremely difficult to solve the difficult questions in the Genius Pavilion and reach the 14th level in one go. At the very least, one's overall strength had to be at least a grade 7 or even grade 8 Yuan ancestor. Otherwise, the exhaustion of solving a difficult question would be sufficient to exhaust one's strength. This was not as simple as doing a test paper. Instead, it was a kind of empty world and people were in it. One needed to use one's strength to continuously deduce. One could imagine that it was a process of using one's mind to neatly arrange a pile of thousands of kilograms of stones in front of one's body. In the process of deduction, one would consume one's physical strength, mental energy, and even one's soul. Therefore, one would be extremely tired. At the same time, if one wanted to solve the question smoothly, one would need to find the right direction of deduction. If the direction was wrong, it would be a waste of time. Li Zongjio grasped all the directions of deduction, so he could easily deduce. However, at the same time, Li Zongjio's current strength was still insufficient, so he could not directly solve the question. Some idiots thought that their strength was not bad, and that their talent was not bad, so they foolishly rushed into the Genius Pavilion, as if they were prepared to solve the difficult questions and make a name for themselves. However, they did not know that if this continued, it would only be a waste of time. At least in the eyes of a sovereign like Li Zongjio, it was a waste of time. After refining a 5-soul essence pill, Li Zongjio continued to immerse himself in the cultivation process of the white god Fu. He was always in a state of cultivation. On one side, Li Zongjio was focused on cultivation. On the other side, Beiho Liang, who was trembling with fear, did not dare to go out at all these days. Even now, he seemed to have heard the news that an inescapable net had been set up outside, waiting to deal with him, Beiho Liang. In addition, Li Zongjio had given him the task of collecting information, and it was not easy for him to collect this information. Now, he only hoped to send this information to Li Zongjio as soon as possible. Although it was not very complete, it was not that there was nothing. Otherwise, if the ruthless Li Zongjio came to find him, Beiho Liang would be completely dead. He had never imagined that he, the great Beiho Liang, would actually end up in such a state. Beiho Liang did not directly look for Li Zongjio. After all, facing Li Zongjio would give him an oppressive and sinister feeling. Fortunately, there was something like a mailbox in the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor. After all, there were many times when you wanted to find someone, but that person might not necessarily be waiting for you there. Therefore, the mailbox function was very useful. After packing everything up, he sent it to Li Zongjio's personal mailbox. He just happened to see someone come over and write something on the board of the Heavenly Day A-class male dormitory. Beiho Liang stopped and looked for a while. His eyes immediately widened. What? There's an extracurricular activity tomorrow, and it's going to the White Blaze Mountain? This extracurricular activity had been initiated by the Heavenly Day A-class homeroom teacher, and it had received a response very quickly. It was also a good opportunity to let the new students know how amazing the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor was. It could also be considered a lesson for the new students. It was worth mentioning that this time, there would also be a small-scale scoring competition. In the end, the top 10 who collected the herbs would be rewarded with points. These points were something that everyone coveted. After all, it was related to the ranking of the alchemy master role. No one would think that their skills were inferior to others. In fact, they would even think that they had a chance. As long as they were under certain conditions or within a certain period of time, they would have a chance to turn things around. At the very least, they would have to make their ranking look better. Oh no, there's going to be an outdoor activity. Wouldn't that be dangerous? Beiho Liang was also thinking about whether he should pretend to be sick and ask for leave. After all, once he was outdoors, he might be targeted by that night lone moon. What's more, the White Blaze Mountain was outside the city. The risk factor was greatly increased. I have to hurry and think of a way. Beiho Liang hurriedly left and realized that the announcement had already been written below his dormitory. News of this matter would probably spread out very soon. Lone Moon Manor. At this moment, that night lone moon was already speechless. He sent out close to 20 experts, but in the end, not a single one returned. 20 people can't catch one person. All of you can kill yourselves. Yi Lone Moon waved his hand. He was already completely helpless towards these people under him. Even if all of them died in front of him, he would not even blink. Young master, calm down. Now there is a heaven-sent opportunity in front of us. Yes, we just received news that the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor will organize an outdoor activity tomorrow. We have already found out the location. It's at the White Blaze Mountain. Yes, the White Blaze Mountain. Young master, we just need to set it up well. There will definitely be no problem. All the staff members were excited. Otherwise, this night Lone Moon would really kill. Tomorrow is your last chance. If it doesn't work, then all of you can go to hell. All of you get lost. Yi Lone Moon waved his hand and ordered the people in front of him to leave. Then, he paced back and forth in the room. Finally, he also smacked his hands. It's useless to rely on these useless people. Looks like I have to make a trip to Big Sister. Chapter 337. Li Zongjio received this information from the mailbox. Someone specially came to remind him, so Li Zongjio was able to get it. Otherwise, he would have stayed in this room and continued to cultivate the white god Fu. Yi clan, I'll start with you. Faced with this kind of provocation, no one could tolerate it, let alone Li Zongjio. How could he let these people step on Li Zongjio's head and make a scene? Therefore, Li Zongjio naturally took action. He looked through the information. Boyu Casino? It just so happens that I've been a little poor recently. Although the information found by Beiho Liang was not very secret, it was more accurate than some of the information in the market. There were also some deeper information that was dug out. For example, this Boyu Casino was one of the more obscure businesses of the Yi clan. Usually, it was under other people's names, but when it came to paying, it was handed over to the Boyu Casino. Because Beiho Liang often went to the casino to take care of it, he more or less heard about it. This Boyu Casino was considered a relatively large gold medal casino in Royal City. Opening a casino required a license, and this license had to be divided into grades. The gold medal casino was the highest grade. Just the amount of money that was bet on this stage every day was often an extremely terrifying number. In order to encourage these gamblers to bet crazily, they would often come up with some gimmicks to attract some gamblers who came to visit. Since they had already come to this casino, how could they not gamble? Moreover, they would often give out some benefits. For example, they would give away 2,000 if they bet 10,000. In the end, even if they lost, they would still give some compensation so that they would not feel that they had suffered a loss. Tonight, the Boyu Casino was also holding a Pai Gao tournament. At the same time, they also invited a beautiful gambler from the Pai Gao world to appear. This increased the enthusiasm of these gamblers. Have you heard? Tonight, the Heavenly Queen of 9 Victories will open at the Boyu Casino. Whoever wins against her will have no problem sleeping with her. There's such a good thing, we must go and see. Yes, I heard that tonight, there will definitely be a gathering of experts. Let's go together. When night fell, the Broad Delight Casino was already a hubbub of voices. All sorts of banners were hung at the side, and the same name was written on them, 9 Victories Heavenly Queen. It was said that the Empress of 9 Victories had exquisite gambling skills and was extremely beautiful. Anyone who saw her would drool with desire. Who would have thought that such a stunningly beautiful woman would actually appear in the Broad Joy Casino? It seemed that the Broad Joy Casino had invested quite a bit of capital in order to improve their performance. Li Zongjio raised his head and glanced at the Great Pleasure Casino. The signboard hanging high outside was not the word casino, but Joy Golden Manor. First of all, the first floor was an ordinary gambling hall. All kinds of gambling methods were laid out on the table. As long as you were interested, you could sit down and gamble at the opening of the hall. In the area on the second floor, there were private rooms. Generally, some big shots or rich people would form a card game here. In addition to satisfying their cravings, more importantly, they would come here to discuss some matters. Moreover, there were many polite guards standing at the staircase of the second floor. Ordinary people were not allowed to enter and exit as they pleased. This way, it would immediately appear that they were of high status. Such treatment was naturally good. It seems that it's not easy to meet the owner. Li Zongjio originally wanted to directly kill his way in, but seeing that there were so many people at the scene, wouldn't it be better to kill everyone? Moreover, these people were now in a state of excitement. Who knew if they would cause trouble? However, when it came to robbing, it was still faster to gamble on the spot. Give me 100 gold coins worth of chips. Li Zongjio handed over a gold coin deposit check. It was not easy for him to save this money. Because it was in the corner of his storage ring, he did not find it immediately. Now it was just in time to save him. Here you go. A small palm yellow sign was pushed out from the window. The number 100 was printed on the sign. It was exactly 100 gold coins. The people who came here to play included ordinary people as well as high-level people. The moves of the high-level people were naturally different. But for these ordinary people, the denomination of 100 gold coins was enough. Li Zongjio threw the chips in his hand and casually sat in front of a gambling table. Oh, such a young child also came to gamble. Hee hee, little guy, you can't go wrong if you follow your uncle and buy. Big. After saying that, the other party also threw out a few thousand gold coins as chips and then waited expectantly for the dealer to open. The rest of the people also placed their bets. The game in front of them was dice. They could guess the number and also buy big or small. There were a total of 3 dice, so the winning rate was relatively high. It gave more people a chance to fight for a chance to turn things around. The multiplier would be different depending on the number of points. For example, with 3 sixes, the odds were 100 times. Li Zongjio didn't even think and directly put his chips on the 3 sixes. Everyone knew that the dealer could set whatever time he wanted. Therefore, when people bought, they tried their best not to deliberately win. To bet on such a multiplier was simply a fool. The dealer in charge of shaking the dice didn't care. After a while, after everyone placed their bets, he began to shake the dice in his hand. Big, 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 small, small, small. Li Zongjio sat there and seemed to be inconspicuous. Soon he was drowned out by the noise. The dealer also slammed the dice in his hand on the table. With his many years of experience, this round was definitely a leopard. 3 twos. No one at the scene bet on the leopard. Only a fool bet on 3 sixes. Although these 3 sixes appeared occasionally, the probability of winning was too low. When the movement stopped, the surrounding people seemed to be even more excited. The corner of the dealer's mouth raised slightly. Place your bets, open. The moment the dice appeared, the dealer was already ready to collect the money on the table. However, the surrounding people were in an uproar. What? Oh my god, this dog shit luck is too good. Fuck, is this for real? The dealer's heart was also a little proud. Although 3 twos weren't very easy to shake, with his ability, it naturally wasn't a problem. These people didn't need to be so surprised. A little worship was enough. He actually opened 3 sixes 100 times. This kid's dog shit luck is too good. 100 bets for 10,000, what fucking luck. What 3 sixes? The dealer himself was also shocked, but when he lowered his head to look, his expression changed. How was this possible? The 3 dice in his hand were all sixes. Not a single 2. How was this possible? How could something go wrong with his own hands? But this was the reality. However, on the surface, the dealer still won. After all, Li Zongjio only bet 100 gold coins. The rest of the people were all killed. Fortunately, nothing went wrong. If Li Zongjio had bet 10,000 gold yuan at this moment, then the situation would be terrible. It was equivalent to losing 1,000,000 gold yuan on this platform. Chapter 338. Seeing Li Zongjio pocketing the 10,000 gold coins, many people's eyes turned red. They had also placed bets of 3 to 500, but Li Zongjio's luck was too good. Li Zongjio did not show any emotion when he received the money. He glanced at the odds and finally placed the money on the 3 sixes. And it was all of them. He had just won 10,000 gold coins, and in the blink of an eye, he placed all of them. How was this gambling? He was clearly venting his anger. he's either a madman or an idiot. When the surrounding people saw Li Zongjio's actions, they could not help but shake their heads. It was better not to bet recklessly with this kid. Otherwise, if something went wrong, it would be troublesome. In a while, they would lose all of their capital. Place your bets. The dealer had already begun to shake the dice in his hand. Big, big, big. Small, small, small. His voice got louder and louder. The dealer was slightly pleased with himself. This time, he definitely did not lose his hand. 2, 3, 4, small. The moment he opened the dice, the dealer felt that his eyes were going blind. The lid in his hand could not help but fall to the ground. This is impossible. The crowd was in an uproar. No one dared to believe that what was in front of them was real. It was real. 3 sixes. In the blink of an eye, Li Zongjio's 10,000 gold coins became 1 million. One must know that at the beginning, Li Zongjio had only placed 100 gold coins. With this 1 million gold coins, he could play however he wanted. Of course, he had to be frugal. His life would be much easier. This was the charm of a casino. It could make you a winner in life overnight. However, it was also possible to fall into a valley. Li Zongjio was one of those lucky people. Now that he had 1 million gold coins in his hand, it was enough for Li Zongjio to stop. The dealer was also covered in cold sweat. Even his hands were trembling. They worked here for a commission. On this stage, the money they won every day would be deducted by 1,000th. Moreover, there was a limit to the amount of money they could lose at each table. If they exceeded this limit, they would have to compensate for the losses of the casino. If they could not afford it, they would have to wait for their limbs to be broken. 1 million was already the dealer's limit. If he continued to lose, he would lose his life. He did not dare to continue to bet. He quickly signaled someone in the distance. Then, a man in dark clothes slowly walked over. Hee, everyone, have a good time. I haven't played in a long time, so I'll play with everyone. I will accompany you all. The man had thick eyebrows and a golden tooth in his mouth. When he smiled, the golden tooth seemed to reveal a trace of cold light. Some people could already see that the casino was here to deal with Li Zongjio. One must know that the casino opened its doors to do business. Of course, they could not directly drive people away. If you won a small amount, there would be no problem. However, if you played tricks and cheated, there would be plenty of ways to deal with you. If the dealer was not good, another gambling master would be replaced. It's Third Master Jinya. I didn't expect Third Master Jinya to personally take action. This is going to be a good show. This Third Master Jinya mingled in various big casinos in his early years and almost never lost. Later, I heard that he lost in the Boyu casino. The boss did not directly chop off his fingers, but let him stay and watch the show. So that's how it is. I was wondering where Third Master Jinya had been all these years. The Boyu casino had a golden license. Of course, they would invite some experts to hold the fort. That Third Master Jinya rolled up his sleeves. There was also a leopard tattoo on his thick arm. A pair of leopard eyes were staring at Li Zongjio. Even when everyone saw the leopard tattoo on the sleeve, they exclaimed in their hearts. It was a kind of creepy feeling. 1 million. Li Zongjio did not care. It was the same no matter who came. He did not come here for the money. In other words, the most important thing was not money. When Li Zongjio pushed the chip of 1 million on the 3 sixes, Third Master Jinya's face showed a sinister smile. Third Master Jinya's face also showed a trace of a sinister smile. How could there be nothing fishy about betting on 3 times? But a real master would tell you that he cheated, but you couldn't find any evidence, so there was nothing you could do about it. This was the best method, and Jinya-san's method had to be better than Li Zongjio's. These dice are too light. Change it. Jinya-san said. Immediately, someone replaced the wooden dice with golden dice. The golden light shone brightly, making the surrounding people drool. Just these 3 dice alone were worth a lot. In this round, no one dared to bet with Li Zongjio. They just watched quietly. Everyone knew that Li Zongjio would lose, but they were also looking forward to the appearance of a miracle. Of course, now was the matter between Li Zongjio and the other party. What needed to be solved was the grudge between the casino and Li Zongjio. If they rashly got involved, they would be regarded as a group. In the end, they would not have a good ending. Third Master Jinya shouted. The power in his body was circulating, pouring into his arm. His arm instantly shook the dice cup in his hand. It kept shaking. Everyone only felt that the cup was releasing a golden aura, which was coming towards them. Clang, 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 clang. A crisp and pleasant sound was heard. Third Master Jinya's hand shook in the air, creating afterimages. Gusts of wind blew, making the surrounding people nervous. Seeing Third Master Jinya's means, they were extremely impressed. It's really powerful. Those 3 golden dice are at least 1 jin and 8 taels. With such an arm's strength and the intensity of the shaking, the speed is terrifying. The surrounding people were talking about it. Li Zongjio was sitting quietly. Suddenly, Third Master Jinya slammed the cup in his hand on the table with a bang. Place your bets. Open. Third Master Jinya was very satisfied with his performance this time. This kind of smooth operation was impossible for ordinary people to learn. Therefore, when this move landed, Third Master Jinya was very confident. 2 5s, 1 6. Third Master Jinya opened the lid in his hand. At this moment, he was ready to welcome the applause of the crowd. But when the answer was revealed, the whole audience was silent. The surrounding onlookers also opened their mouths in surprise, looking at the final result on the table. Third Master Jinya also felt that the surrounding atmosphere was a bit strange. The moment he looked down, he was so shocked that he almost spat out the big golden tooth in his mouth. What? This is impossible! Third Master Jinya roared. This was the result of his own shaking. You cheated! Third Master Jinya pointed at Li Zongjio and roared. Do you have evidence? If you don't, you know the rules. Li Zongjio knocked on the table lightly. This time, I won't argue with you. Let's continue. The so-called rules. If you accuse the other party of being a cheater but can't produce effective evidence in the end, then you have to pull out a tooth and cut off a finger. After all, he was an adult, so he had to be responsible for what he said. Indeed, even if he wanted to cheat, only he, Third Master Jinya, could cheat. After all, these things were in his hands. Moreover, Li Zongjio also bet in advance, not after Third Master Jinya rolled out the numbers. This way, the difficulty of cheating would be even higher. But Third Master Jinya knew. This Li Zongjio, there was definitely something wrong with him. Third Master Jinya secretly glanced upstairs. A man wearing a purple robe nodded slowly. Third Master Jinya took a deep breath, cheered himself up, and prepared for another round. 1 million gold coins. 100 times. 100 million. 100 million gold coins. It was placed in front of Li Zongjio. No one dared to believe their eyes. That was an entire 100 million gold coins. No one dared to believe it. The chips in their hands had already been converted into 10 million gold coins. A total of 10 pieces were placed in front of Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio did not hesitate at all. He once again pushed all the chips in his hand to the 3 6s in front of him. Hurry up and roll. Li Zongjio glanced at the other party. Third Master Jinya's eyeballs almost fell out. Even his hands were trembling. He touched the dice cup in front of the table. Even he, Third Master Jinya, had never experienced such a scene. 100 million gold coins. The odds were 100 times. 10 billion gold coins. Even if it was converted to purple yuan, it was still 100 million purple yuan. The income of the Great Joy Casino in one night was equivalent to this amount. This was when it was relatively popular. Some activities could achieve this kind of income. More and more people came to watch the game. It was obviously just a small gambling table in the hall, but it seemed to be a top-level gambling game. This teenager used 100 gold coins, and in just 3 rounds, he turned it to 100 million. Moreover, he did not stop. It was obvious that they were here for the casino. Chapter 339. Li Zongjio's appearance had alarmed the manager of the casino. The manager was in the middle of dealing with the upcoming arrival of the Queen of Nine Victories tonight. The Queen of Nine Victories was a big shot in the gambling world. Most importantly, her identity was not simple. Otherwise, she would not have been able to survive until now after winning so much money. Therefore, the Queen of Nine Victories' background was also not simple. I knew someone would come to cause trouble, but I didn't expect him to come so quickly. Where did you find this person? Go and investigate. Genia 3's level is not enough to deal with this person. Go and find Malu. The manager of the casino, Tai-Fi, said in a deep voice. The casino would encounter trouble all year round, so there was nothing to panic about. Even if they really lost 10 billion gold coins, it was not a big deal. They could earn it back in 2 days. But the most important thing was to settle this matter and find out who exactly Li Zongjio was. Only by knowing the root of the problem could they solve the root of the problem. Tai-Fi stood on the second floor, looking down. Genia 3 had finished shaking the dice, but he did not dare to open it. He placed his hand on the dice cup and looked at Li Zongjio's calm eyes. He already had a bad feeling in his heart. Sure enough. Hee old 3, go to the back and rest. I'll open it for you. An old and slightly hoarse voice rang out, and a stooped figure walked out. When Genia 3 saw the old man coming, it was as if he had been relieved. When his whole body relaxed, he almost fainted. This kind of pressure was too strong, and not many people could withstand it. This was also because Genia 3 was here. After all, if he opened it, it was very likely that he would lose 10 billion gold coins. Even if his hands and feet were chopped off, it would not be worth it. The old man's appearance could be considered as saving his life. The old man who appeared was not an ordinary person. He was casually wearing a white coat, black trousers, and a pair of cloth shoes. There was a tobacco pouch hanging from his waist, but there was no tobacco pipe in sight. Li Zongjio felt a bit of pressure from the old man. Finally, an expert had arrived. However, his strength could only be said to be average. At most, he had the strength of a 5th-grade Origin Grandmaster. Compared to Li Zongjio, he could not pose any threat. That young man isn't feeling well. I'll take over this round. Is there any problem? As you wish. Li Zongjio waved his hand and said. Ma Lu smiled faintly, the wrinkles on his face almost sticking together. However, he was not in a hurry to open the results. Instead, he grabbed a handful of tobacco from the tobacco pouch at his waist. There were a few wisps of smoke between his fingers. As he gently rubbed them, a wisp of green smoke rose from his fingers and was completely inhaled by Ma Lu. Sorry, I'm addicted to smoking. I'll open it now. As he spoke, Ma Lu flicked his wrist and instantly flipped open the dice cup on the table. The moment he flipped open the cup, the surrounding people could smell the smoke. The smell of smoke rushed into his mind, and in an instant he saw the die appear in front of him. What? Ma Lu wanted to hypnotize the people around him and switch the dice, but he realized that his mental energy was unable to move the dice in front of him. It was as if the dice were fixed in place. The moment he forced the dice, he immediately felt a wave of energy from his mental energy. It seemed to have rushed into Ma Lu's mind. Boom! Ma Lu's mind suddenly buzzed. His whole body seemed to have been shocked silly, and his eyes were in a daze. However, the people around him all burst into cheers and clapped their hands even harder. It was simply too shocking. Li Zongjio won again. 10 billion gold coins. From the initial 100 gold coins, it had multiplied by 100 million. How did he get such a number? 10 billion gold coins. Even Ma Lu had failed. Who was this young man? Tai-Fi's eyes flashed coldly when he saw this scene from the second floor. It didn't matter who sent Li Zongjio. Today, he dared to be so arrogant in his territory. There was no way he would let Li Zongjio leave so easily. He had to make Li Zongjio pay the price. Tai-Fi was just about to order for Li Zongjio to be cleared and brought upstairs for a good talk when a strong fragrance wafted over. Tai-Fi's eyes moved slightly and he immediately looked over. He immediately saw a woman in a long dress. She exuded a seductive aura from head to toe. Her proud figure and slender legs were incomparably attractive. It made one feel as if a scorching aura was slowly rising from her lower abdomen. Half of his shoulders were exposed, and he looked at the scene before him. Tai Feihe also reacted in an instant. The person who had come was none other than the 9 Victories Heaven Empress. So it's the 9 Victories Heaven Queen. When did you arrive? She was already by his side. Tai Fei still didn't know what his subordinates were doing. However, after seeing the 9 Victories Heaven Queen's figure and aura, it was very normal that his subordinates couldn't stop her. I'm here to see if Supervisor Tai has encountered any problems. The corner of the 9 Victories Heaven Queen's lips curled up slightly. Her face was heavily powdered. Although she wasn't in her prime, her current charming appearance was the kind of posture that many people liked. As she spoke, the 9 Victories Heaven Queen looked at Li Zongjio. She then looked at Ma Lu, who looked as if he was facing a great enemy. She somewhat understood the situation in front of her. It seemed like this matter wasn't easy to solve. Even Master Ma Lu had taken action, but it still wasn't resolved. The 9 Victories Heaven Queen was slightly surprised. I did meet a troublesome kid. But don't worry, Heaven Queen. I'll send someone to deal with him. It won't affect tonight's game. Tai Fei said indifferently. No need. It's been a long time since I met an expert. Today is a good time to give it a try. The 9 Victories Heaven Queen bit her lips lightly. She seemed to be very interested in a little fresh meat like Li Zongjio. After speaking, the 9 Victories Heaven Queen walked down the stairs. There was a commotion in the crowd. Sir? Should we stop him? A subordinate came up to Tai Fei and asked. The 9 Victories Queen of Heavens wasn't a member of their casino. She was only invited to help with publicity. However, if the 9 Victories Queen of Heavens represented them and deliberately lost to Li Zongjio, then the casino would be the one paying in the end. So what if the two of them were in cahoots? Based on that kid's character, he would probably bet the 10 billion. It's the 9 Victories Heaven Queen. The 9 Victories Heaven Queen is here. Oh my God, the 9 Victories Heaven Queen is exactly the same as the girl of my dreams. You're shameless. The 9 Victories Heaven Queen stood in front of Ma Lu. Even Ma Lu couldn't back down. After all, in the gambling world, Ma Lu was considered the second level. However, the 9 Victories Heaven Queen was the first level expert. Little guy, how about I accompany you to play? After saying that, the 9 Victories Heaven Queen winked at Li Zongjio. She was extremely flirtatious. Any normal man wouldn't be able to stand it. However, Li Zongjio wasn't an ordinary man. When he saw this scene, he didn't make any movements. Instead, he slowly put away the chips on the table. I've played enough for today. In a few days, I'll be back. At that time, it won't be just a little. Li Zongjio stood up and said. Then, he raised his head and looked at Tai Feihe, who was upstairs. Then, he pointed at the chips in his hand. Thank you. Li Zongjio directly took the 10 billion chips and walked to the exchange counter. As for the 9 Victories Heaven Queen, Li Zongjio didn't care at all. What's the point of paying attention to such an old woman? She's disgusting. The people at the exchange counter didn't dare to act rashly. Instead, they asked for instructions from Tai Fei upstairs. Tai Fei nodded. 10 billion. They could afford to lose. With so many people here tonight, they couldn't directly kill Li Zongjio. However, they had to find out the kid's identity first. 10 billion. In the end, the other party gave him 100 gold yuan notes. Each note was worth 1 million gold yuan. All of them were placed in a box and handed to Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio turned around and left the Broad Delight Casino. The 9 Victories Heaven Queen looked at Li Zongjio's back as he left. Her lips curled into a playful smile. Although there was a smile in her eyes, it was filled with danger. In Royal City, no one had ever disrespected her. Li Zongjio was the first person to disrespect her. Although he was just a little boy, it was a provocation and even an insult to the 9 Victories Heaven Queen. How dare he insult her charm? Then I'll let you have a taste of my power. Chapter 340. Li Zongjio easily walked away with 10 billion gold coins. This night's harvest was indeed a lot. If the Li family were to sell some low-level elixirs, It would take a long time to accumulate so much money. However, this method was not suitable. If he was addicted to gambling, sooner or later he would encounter an expert. The reason why Li Zongjio was able to win so easily was naturally due to his mental strength. The two people in front of him, Genius-san, should be good at gambling. However, if he encountered a mental strength expert, he basically had no chance and was easily beaten. Although Ma Lu had some skills, this strength was far from enough in front of Li Zongjio. It was easy to defeat him. However, the appearance of the old woman also made Li Zongjio feel the threat of the other party. In terms of killing, Li Zongjio had 10,000 ways to kill this person. However, on the gambling table he really did not dare to make any guarantees, so he directly stopped. However, in the Boyu casino, Li Zongjio was bound to win. No one could protect him. When he returned to the Heavenly Star Medicine Mansion in the middle of the night, the Boyu casino did not send anyone to follow him. Otherwise, the result would only be a few more corpses. Hey, what is this? An outdoor activity in the incandescent mountain? Li Zongjio saw a notice board under the dormitory. A line of words was clearly written on the board. The meeting time and the task content were very clear. The incandescent mountain. If I remember correctly, it should be a flaming mountain now. If I use the power of the flames in the core, it will definitely be able to temper my body. Li Zongjio suddenly thought. Although it was said that under normal circumstances, it was very good to improve one's strength. However, if Li Zongjio did not go easy, it was really rare for him to be hit. Letting Li Zongjio deliberately take a beating was indeed a bit of a crazy idea. Taking poison was also a method. However, as time passed, Li Zongjio's body became stronger and stronger, the effect became less and less obvious. As for some extreme training, it was also a good idea to use the place where the terrifying origin energy gathered to temper the body's strength. For example, in a place like the incandescent mountain. It could also be used to temper the body. He was only focused on training and forgot about these things. The main thing was that when he was busy, it was hard to remember these things. Li Zongjio originally had no interest in this kind of outdoor activity, but now. So, he decided to take a trip. After all, the incandescent mountain was under the jurisdiction of the imperial city. But outside of the city, there was a troop stationed in the mountain. This troop was called the Vermilion Army. Troops who had gathered a large amount of fire elemental energy to train. However, if the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor wanted to come, the Vermilion Bird Army would definitely welcome them and open the door wide. Li Zongjio, who had won 100 million purple yuan, was cultivating in his own room. For Li Zongjio, the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor was only for the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor. The reason why he stayed in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor was so that he could enter the territory of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor and experience it. The prerequisite was that his strength had reached a certain level. If one wants to clear the first 14 floors of the Genius Tower and solve these difficult problems, one's elemental energy needs to be at least at the peak of the Sky Origin Ancestor level. Li Zongjio had made a small breakthrough. However, he was only a second-grade Sky Origin Ancestor. Therefore, he wasn't in a hurry. However, it had been a thrilling night for the Great Delight Casino. Tai Feihe was extremely grateful to the 9 Victory Celestial Queen for her help. If it hadn't been for the 9 Victory Celestial Queen, the other party wouldn't have left so easily. It was obvious that they had chosen to retreat after sensing the 9 Victory Celestial Queen's strength. Based on the information that Tai Feihe had gathered, this kid's name was Li Zongjio. Although Tai Feihe didn't know where Li Zongjio had come from, the fact that he was the first place on the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor's freshman roll this year was enough to pose a threat. Being able to obtain such a ranking was already very impressive. Who knew what sort of arrogant power was supporting him? Since you are the first place on the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor's freshman roll, I will give you some face. I hope that you will know when to stop. Tai Feihe thought to himself. If Li Zongjio came to cause trouble again, Tai Feihe wouldn't be polite. Everyone knew that the Yi family was behind the Great Delight Casino. No one dared to offend the Yi family of the Sacred Flame Imperial City. No matter who was behind the Yi family would be able to take care of them. That kid will definitely come back. The Empress of 9 Victories, Pan Shi, arrived in front of Tai Fai and spoke indifferently. What do you mean? Tai Fai frowned. He was in charge of managing the casino. All he needed to do was make money. However, he wasn't good at gambling. He was better at killing people. His eyes don't look like a gambler's. Pan Shi said indifferently. There was also a great interest in Li Zongjio in his eyes. Not a gambler's eyes? What do you mean? He won 10 billion in my casino. Isn't he a gambler? Tai Fai suddenly said. When he thought of the 10 billion gone down the drain, he couldn't wait to capture Li Zongjio and skin him alive. In his casino, there was only profit. There would never be a loss. If the casino was losing money, Tai Fai wouldn't be sitting here. Even if Li Zongjio took away 10 billion gold coins, Tai Fai would have earned the money back by the end of the night. With the reputation of the Empress of 9 Victories, he could easily get the money back. He only wanted to win. Or rather, he didn't come for the money. Pan Shi closed her eyes and recalled Li Zongjio's eyes. He was so calm. From the beginning to the end, his eyes didn't fall on any chips or dice. There was only a hint of playfulness. Therefore, the Empress of 9 Victories knew that Li Zongjio wasn't here for the money, nor was he here to gamble. If he's not here for the money, then he's here for me. The next time I meet this person, I won't let him go so easily. My Great Joy Casino has been in business for so many years. How could any Tom, Dick, or Harry destroy it? At this point, Tai Fai's face was full of murderous intent. Clearly, Tai Faiha was not someone to be trifled with. It did not matter if you were to cause trouble elsewhere, but if you were to find Tai Faiha, then even if you were under the feet of the emperor, he would still have a way to cut you into 1,000 pieces. Pan Shi didn't say much, but she was curious. What kind of person could have such a gaze? She was very curious. Early morning, Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. There were already a few people gathered in the square. Some had just woken up from a dream, while others were still sleepy. In the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, some of the rules were quite strict. After all, this wasn't an ordinary school. They never rejected students. Moreover, they didn't lack good students. If you weren't obedient enough, then you could only be asked to leave. That was how domineering it was. There were plenty of geniuses. It didn't matter if you were there or not. Therefore, under such circumstances, there were very few people who dared to not attend class like Li Zongjio. Only the first and second years participated in the outdoor activities this time. There were about 500 people in total. The third years were basically trying to break through to the next realm. At this time, there weren't any classes. They only needed to complete their final assessment. The fourth years were basically staying in the Genius Pavilion, preparing to tackle difficult problems. The competition for the top 10 spots on the Alchemist ranking was very intense. Everyone was unwilling to be outdone. They weren't even willing to take half a step back. It was all for the sake of the rankings. If you didn't move forward, then it was the same as moving backward, because others would constantly move forward. In addition, there were some who were sick or took leave for special reasons. Therefore, there were only about 500 teachers and students participating in the outdoor activities. Li Zongjio came to the square. The surrounding people were basically chatting in 2s and 3s. As the sun rose, the number of people in the courtyard gradually increased. A ferocious gaze was fixed on Li Zongjio. At this moment, he couldn't wait to pick up the brick on the ground and smash it on Li Zongjio's head. And the source of this angry light was Murong Jian. Senior brother Murong, it's that Li Zongjio. That brat actually dared to appear. I thought that he was hiding in the dormitory and didn't dare to come out. Murong Jian was already rubbing his fists. He was waiting to teach Li Zongjio a lesson. As for Li Zongjio, he closed his eyes and rested. In his mind, he was reading the prose of the White God. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of Li Zongjio and blocked the sunlight. Are you Li Zongjio, junior brotherly? Chapter 341. Junior brotherly? Li Zongjio opened his eyes. Who was this guy who dared to take advantage of him? He really thought highly of him. How dare he call him junior brother? Standing in front of Li Zongjio was a handsome young man, who was a few years older than Li Zongjio. His hair was neatly trimmed, and his eyebrows were sharp like swords. His figure was also tall and sturdy. He was simply a model of a talented person with a graceful demeanor. At the same time, there was a friendly smile on his face. "I'm Sima Chun, from the B class of the Heavenly STEM faculty," Sima Chun said with a gentle smile. Coupled with the faint herbal fragrance on his body, this was a fragrance pouch that he specially made. Basically, any girl would like this smell. Therefore, Sima Chun usually carried this fragrance pouch with him. Sima Chun? That would be someone from the Sima family. The Sima family was in charge of the special envoys in the country. There were countless experts and their influence was very far-reaching. Sima Chun's position in the family was not low. He was considered one of the more outstanding direct disciples. The reason why Sima Chun had sought out Li Zongjio was because he had heard that Li Zongjio was closely related to Yi Guxing's death. On top of that, the Sima clan had suffered an all-out counterattack from the Yi clan. Some of their members had also suffered a heavy blow. They had been ambushed by Yi Lan Tian many times in the open and in the dark. There were even quite a number of people who had been directly killed. However, the Sima family was not a pushover. Recently, they were also preparing for a counterattack. As a member of the Sima family, Sima Chun was also trying his best to come up with a solution. Since the Yi family wanted to kill Li Zongjio, why not pull Li Zongjio to his side? Therefore, Sima Chun took the initiative to come and get in touch with Li Zongjio. Not to mention whether Li Zongjio could create a lot of value, the Yi family was already uncomfortable with his faction. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. At least, that was what Sima Chun thought. Who's your junior brother? Who's smiling at you? Get lost. Li Zongjio said directly, not giving Sima Chun any face. Sima Chun was famous for his mild temper. Even if someone pointed at his nose and scolded him, he wouldn't get angry. Instead, he would talk to you calmly. Scolding people was wrong, but no one knew what he would do behind their backs. Now that Sima Chun was here, he couldn't react to Li Zongjio's words. How could someone be so rude? He must have heard wrongly. Sima Chun thought to himself. After all, it was still early in the morning and no one was awake yet. I'm Sima Chun, also from the Heavenly Gone Court. I'm a year older than you. I'm your mother. Do I know you well? Go away, you're blocking my son. Li Zongjio waved his hand. His voice was very loud. Sima Chun's expression became quite awkward after hearing it. Now that he heard it clearly, Li Zongjio didn't seem to like hearing that he was older than him. However, he couldn't just ask him to get lost. Junior brother Li, I heard that you've caused a lot of trouble. Although my Sima family isn't a famous family, it's not a problem for us to solve some ordinary problems. If you're willing to cooperate with us, you said that you can help me solve the problem, right? Li Zongjio suddenly said. Sima Chun had thoroughly understood the saying, don't slap a smiling person. His skin was so thick that even Li Zongjio was helpless against him. Li Zongjio had no choice but to talk to him nicely. Of course, I'm not bragging, but there's no problem in King City that I can't solve. Sima Chun said until here, stopping his waist. At this moment, it was as if the radiance was shining on Sima Chun's body. Li Zongjio couldn't help but touch his nose. A grown man actually using such a fragrant pouch. I'm really impressed. Hey, there's a bitch called Murong over there. Help me settle it. Otherwise, he'll definitely kill me. Li Zongjio said. Sima Chun was also confused. Murong bitch? There's actually such a person in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor? He's been here for a year, but he's never heard of anyone with that name. But speaking of Murong, there's only one person with the surname Murong. Sima Chun turned around and immediately saw Murong Jian standing not far away. At this moment, Murong Jian's body was shrouded in a haze. At the same time, killing intent was released from his body, faintly enveloping Li Zongjio. If there weren't so many people around, Murong Jian would definitely pounce on Li Zongjio and tear Li Zongjio into pieces. Only then would he be able to relieve the hatred in his heart. When Sima Chun saw Murong Jian, he instantly understood that the Murong bitch Li Zongjio was talking about was Murong Jian. Although Murong Jian's name sounded a little murderous, adding the word person, to it was indeed a little strange. However, no one had ever dared to use Murong Jian's name as a joke. Murong Jian represented the Murong Wangfu. In the Murong Wangfu, there was a Murong Wangfu, a Yuan king elite. If he heard that his own name was being used as a joke, even if he was skinned alive, what could he do? Oh my god, do you have a grudge against Murong Jian? When Sima Chun saw Murong Jian, he was instantly terrified. One had to know that Murong Jian was an expert ranked 12th on the alchemy master list. Most importantly, Murong Jian was only in his second year. In 2 years, rushing to the top 10 of the alchemy master list wasn't difficult at all. Who would dare to offend someone with such extraordinary potential? With a Yuan king elite backing him, who would dare to offend him? Just pretend that I wasn't here. Sima Chun waved his hands. If he stood together with Li Zongjio and caused Murong Jian to misunderstand, the problem would be serious. Morning, Li Zongjio. Hey, isn't that Sima Chun? Do the two of you know each other? Kun Erishur walked over to Li Zongjio. He took the initiative to greet him, but when he saw that Li Zongjio didn't seem to have any intention of paying attention to him, he just continued talking. Right. Yesterday, you didn't go to class. The form teacher asked me to tell you to be careful in the future and not cause trouble for her. However, let me tell you, our form teacher's figure is really hot. I just don't know what her temper is like. If it's very fiery, then I probably won't have a chance. I prefer the cute and lovable type. Lan Kuan muttered to himself. At the same time, he was thinking about yesterday's class. My temper is very fiery? Li Zongjio had already retreated a long time ago. Before Kun Erishur approached, he had already sensed an aura. However, Kun Erishur didn't seem to have sensed it. He was still daydreaming and imagining something. He saw a young lady in her 20s wearing a light purple dress and a pair of fiery red boots. One look and one could tell that these boots were a rather powerful origin artifact. Not really. Kun Erishur replied instinctively. However, the moment he said this, he realized that something was wrong. He turned around and saw Ling Yan standing behind him. He had a faint smile on his face as he sent a kick flying. Bang! Lan Kuan was sent flying by the kick. He flew for nearly 50 meters before landing on his butt. There was no room for discussion for this kick. Even if Kun Erishur was prepared, he definitely wouldn't be able to block this move. Li Zongjio shook his head helplessly. It was really hard on this kid. You are Li Zongjio? Ling Yan retracted her leg and tidied up her clothes. Raising her leg so high in front of everyone was indeed a little bad. She glanced at Li Zongjio indifferently. This kid seemed to be hard to deal with. However, under her, Ling Yan, there wasn't anyone who couldn't be taught. Chapter 342. Seeing someone fly out, the students present were all shocked. When they saw the person who attacked, they all understood what had happened and silently moved their bodies into the distance. If he accidentally offended her, he would be in for a treat. This lady's fiery temper wasn't just for show. These second-year students all knew of a legend. It was this little grandaunt who had once beaten up a prince to the point where he had to be hospitalized. How could someone who could do such a thing be simple? This lady's background was quite terrifying. Not only was she the granddaughter of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's master, even the current emperor loved and doted on her. Entering and leaving the palace was as simple as entering and exiting her own home. After kicking Kun Erishur, Ling Yan looked at Li Zongjio. Hearing Ling Yan's question, Li Zongjio nodded. Yes. There was nothing wrong with admitting his name. However, if this lady in front of him wanted to make a move, Li Zongjio wouldn't be polite. Let's see who has the upper hand. Just now, Kun Erishur should have told you that I am your class teacher. If anything happens to you, I will be responsible. So, you better not cause trouble for me. I know your talent is very good, but in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, there are many more people who are more talented than you. Don't be arrogant and complacent. Ling Yan wanted to kill Li Zongjio's momentum. Otherwise, if there was any work to be done, this Li Zongjio wouldn't cooperate well. It was his first time being a class teacher, so of course he had to do it well. Even if there were only 2 students, He had to make them stand out. This was what a class teacher should do. As long as they don't provoke me, there won't be a problem. Li Zongjio said indifferently. Speaking in such a manner, it was clearly saying that everything was the fault of others. He wouldn't be wrong. Even if he beat someone up, it was the other person who provoked him first. Don't worry. If anyone dares to look for trouble and provoke you, you can beat them back. If they dare to weaken the prestige of my Heavenly STEM A course, then you can scram as well. Ling Yan said. With that sharp and spirited gaze, probably not many people would dare to confront Ling Yan. Although she tried her best to be a responsible class teacher and wanted to be a role model, she still could not change her character of getting physical and killing when she encountered problems. Li Zongjio couldn't help but feel amused. This little girl's personality was quite straightforward. When Li Zongjio came to the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor, it was already more than 2,000 years later. Even if Ling Yan was not dead, he should be in a state of seclusion. Only when one's cultivation reached the Supreme Being realm would one be able to break through the 3,000 years of lifespan. Even in the primitive Emperor realm, one could only live for 2,000 years. This would depend on the cultivation of the elemental formula. Some primitive Emperor realm experts could only live for about 1,000 years. Therefore, there were very few people who could survive for 3,000 years. Even before the age of 2,000, Li Zongjio was in a state of cultivation and rarely interacted with the outside world. It was only after he became famous by luck and became a pinnacle expert and broke through the Supreme Being realm that he began to move around the continent more frequently. Because Li Zongjio knew of higher realms, he was also searching for higher realms and levels with all his heart. Rubbing his butt, Kun Erishur limped back and came to Li Zongjio. At this moment, Ling Yan was also walking towards the group of teachers. SSS, you don't say. This temper is not ordinary. Kun Erishur said with a grimace. Obviously, that move was quite powerful and Kun Erishur could not bear it. His body also flew out involuntarily. Li Zongjio was too lazy to look at Kun Erishur. If you didn't act tough, he wouldn't have beaten you up. He did not expect Kun Erishur to have such a personality that deserved a beating. Li Zongjio did not expect this at all. He was simply a chatterbox. Hey, I saw that girl staring at you for a long time. Do you have a grudge? Kun Erishur nudged Li Zongjio with his shoulder, which made Li Zongjio frown. However, he didn't say anything. He followed Lan Kun's line of sight and saw Gongjio, who had a ponytail, waving at him. It seemed like she was greeting him. However, there were a few girls beside Gongjio who were also chattering, so they did not come over. Have your sister, Li Zongjio said. The plaza with more than 500 people was bustling with noise and excitement. However, when a voice rang out in the plaza, everyone could not help but quiet down. Then, a figure appeared in the plaza. Li Zongjio remembered this person. It was the recruitment director at that time, Director Shang Diqing. Shang Diqing stood on the high platform. Every class, do a head count. Teachers, report to me. After the head count is done, you can board the sky-shaking ship. Sky-shaking ship. Every time they went out, it would go against the low-key nature of the Heaven Star Medicine Manor. Therefore, every time they went out, they would use the sky-shaking ship to carry people. It was a low-key way to go out. It was also a more covert and efficient way. The sky-shaking ship produced by the Zheng family of the Jade Wave Giant City was indeed a powerful weapon. The first to board the ship was Li Zongjio and the other two. There were only 3 people in total, so the head count was naturally fast. Ling Yan walked in front, bringing Li Zongjio and Kun Erishur onto the ship. There were more than 1,000 seats in the cabin. You two stay in this cabin. Don't cause trouble for my people. If someone comes to provoke you, don't lose face for me, Ling Yan said as he turned around and walked up the stairs. There was another cabin on the higher floor. It was for the teachers. The treatment was indeed different. Presumably, the seats on the higher floor would be better. Teacher, don't worry, Kun Erishur said with a smile. He knew that Li Zongjio did not like to talk. Ling Yan did not seem to intend to listen to their reply. Therefore, after Kun Erishur finished speaking, no one responded. The scene was a little awkward. The two of them waited for a while. Then, Another group of people came up. This time, there were a total of 5 people. Teacher, please. Of the 5 people who came up, the one in the lead looked young and handsome. He was full of talent. The accessories on his body were also quite low-key and expensive. That person did not look back and directly walked up to the second floor. He was also a teacher. The other 4 people waited until that teacher had completely gone upstairs and could not be seen. Then, they got up and walked towards Li Zongjio and Ling Yan. You two, go sit in the back. One of them walked up with an arrogant face. The front row seats were more comfortable. At the same time, it was a symbol of status. And the symbol on their chest was the symbol of the Heavenly STEM A class. They were all second-year students of the Heavenly STEM A class. Kuan Erasure looked at Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio did not respond. Then, he did not respond either. He just looked out the window. I'm talking about you two. 2 new students, you actually dare to sit in the first row. Impudent. As he said that, one of them stretched out his leg and kicked towards Li Zongjio's leg. Chapter 343. Li Zongjio, who was sitting down, had yet to make a move. Kuan Erasure took the lead and kicked out, blocking the kick. Bang! The person who kicked out immediately took a step back. You're courting death. After being forced back by Kuan Erasure, the person was instantly enraged. He wanted to cripple Kuan Erasure, but he was stopped by his companions. There were so many people behind them. If they were to make a move now, wouldn't it be against the rules of the academy? You 2 first years are very arrogant. I hope that you can be so arrogant when you reach the White Blaze Mountain. Although the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor is safe, the number of students who die outside every year is not small. A person walked forward with a sinister smile on his face. There was a black mole the size of a mung bean under the corner of his mouth. It was disgusting to look at. Originally, these people were prepared to leave after speaking and temporarily did not care about it. But when they were leaving, Li Zongjio suddenly stretched out his leg and kicked the last person. Bang, bang, bang. The 4 people collided and fell one after another, lying on each other's bodies. This scene was seen by some of the girls who had just come up and they all covered their eyes. My eyes, my eyes. So embarrassing, I can't believe I did such a thing. The few people who had fallen to the ground were filled with shame and indignation. They clenched their fists and wished they could throw a punch at Li Zongjio's face. However, Li Zongjio calmly turned his head and looked at these people as he spoke indifferently. You should be careful when you walk. There are many people who fall to their deaths every year in the mainland. It seemed like a kind reminder, but it made those people furious. You have guts. In the end, they sat down angrily because the people who were coming up the ship one after another also had to walk through this passage and sit at the back. Even Li Zongjio shook his head helplessly. After 3,000 years of cultivation in his previous life, he thought that he had already become an old man. However, now that he had been reborn, he seemed to have regained his youthful mentality and made such a childish move. If someone knew Li Zongjio's mental age, they would definitely think that Li Zongjio was an old urchin. Very quickly, Murong Jian and the rest also boarded the boat. When they saw Li Zongjio sitting in the first row, their eyes were filled with disdain. It was as though they were saying, "You can show off now. Wait till we reach the White Blaze Mountain, we'll make you suffer." As the saying goes, geniuses are envied by others. If you displayed talent and strength that was much stronger than ordinary people, you would often be out of place in a big environment. Junior brother Li, junior brother Lon. Sima Chun also greeted the 2 of them, mainly because Sima Chun had been greeting people along the way. Most of the people responded because of this face, plus Sima Chun's strength wasn't weak. He was quite a popular person. Gongjio also came up and winked at Li Zongjio. When the surrounding sisters saw Li Zongjio, they also threw a few flirtatious glances. They were already second-year students and had seen many things. What's more, Heavenly Star Medicine Manor didn't have a rule that forbade cross-year relationships. Although Li Zongjio was young, his cold personality made people very fond of him. They couldn't help but want to take a few more glances at him. Hey, did you see that? Those sisters just winked at me. Kuan Arashur seemed a little excited. He was here to make a name for himself. As a future hero, he should first have a beauty in his arms. He should at least have a few beauties by his side to accompany him. Otherwise, how could he become a hero in the future and leave behind some good stories? These were all necessary. Li Zongjio completely ignored Kuan Arashi's narcissism. Although there were many people, the efficiency was relatively high. Soon, all the students were on the sky-shaking ship. With a boom, the sky-shaking ship sped up and charged into the clouds. Its speed was incomparably fast, and it quickly rushed into the clouds. Because Heavenly Star Medicine Manor had already reported before, when they rushed into the clouds, a team of sky guards quickly came to confirm. When the airship reached a certain height, Zhang Tai could see a large number of air cavalries patrolling in the sky which was covered with clouds and mist. After all, some meta beasts lived in the sky. If they accidentally passed by Grand Feast King City and found a lot of food below, they would definitely rush down to eat. The ground might not be useful. By the time they found out, it might be too late. Therefore, there was a need for a layer of defense in the sky. It could be seen that this batch of air troops was relatively powerful. The meta beasts they were riding were all third-level meta beasts comparable to meta generals. Regardless of whether it was attacking or defending, it was the best choice. These air cavalry are really huge. Kuan Arashur looked out of the window at the air cavalry that was escorting the sky-shaking ship. His eyes were filled with envy and amazement. It's all fake. Any 6th-level spectral phoenix will destroy them in less than 2 minutes. Li Zongjio said faintly. That was indeed the case. A 6th-level meta-beast was equivalent to an Origin Emperor expert. If such a meta-beast suddenly descended from the sky, not many people would be able to resist it. However, there were only a few 6th-level meta-beasts in the entire continent. Meta-beasts that had grown to such a level would definitely have intelligence as long as they weren't born stupid. It wouldn't be a problem for them to talk to humans directly. Rashly attacking a powerful empire was obviously not a wise choice, unless there was a reason behind it. However, if that was the case, there was still room for discussion. It's easy for you to say. A 6th-level meta-beast and a spectral phoenix. I wonder if I can see such a legendary meta-beast before I die. Kuan Arashur said. Anyone who cultivated would think that one day, they would be able to sit on the back of a powerful meta-beast and soar into the sky. They would be able to trample the entire world under their feet. At that time, they would truly be free and unfettered in the world. Now, it was just like in Monarch City. In Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor, they had to be obedient. If they were careless and offended someone, they would be in big trouble. Therefore, Ling Yan had been emphasizing that they had to keep a low profile and not cause any trouble. If they really caused any trouble, it would be quite troublesome. In just 15 minutes, the sky-shaking ship began to descend. With a boom, the sky-shaking ship stopped at a certain height. Li Zongjio and the others walked out of the deck and immediately felt a heat wave sweeping towards them. Whoosh! The heat wave hit them in the face. The surrounding air was mixed with extremely dense fire attribute elemental energy. In the distance, there was a huge, white mountain peak standing tall. On that mountain, there were only some pale white rocks. There were no crops or plants on it. There were only these dry rocks and potholes. This mountain peak was also incomparably huge. It was close to 1,000 feet tall. This was the White Blazing Mountain. Everyone, go down and gather at the location. Director Shang Diqing said. This time, he was the leader of the instructors. The instructors landed one after another. Li Zongjio and the others also flew down. The sky-shaking ship stopped at a rather high altitude. It was close to 100 meters from the ground. If it went down a little more, it would probably cause a sandstorm. Fortunately, these students were not mediocre. Each of them happily landed on the ground. Some even purposely showed off their operation. The sky-shaking ship also rose into the air and flew towards the distance. It could be considered as leaving and waiting for the designated time to come back. Before disembarking, Director Shang Diqing also used the broadcast on the sky-shaking ship to explain the rules of this outdoor activity clearly. The time limit was 3 days and 3 nights. Within this stipulated time, enter the white blazing mountain and search for the medicinal herbs in the herbal book. Whoever brought back the most number of herbs and ranked higher would be considered the winner. The first 3 winners would be rewarded with points. At the same time, the last 3 would have their points deducted as punishment. There were no restrictions. You could form a team of 2 or 3. It was up to you. In the end, it would only depend on the results. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.